Michael Jordan's list. On May 7th, 1989, Michael Jordan hit a jumper over Craig Elo to give the Chicago Bulls a 101-100 win over the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 5 of their first round playoff series. That shot ended the series, but what happened after is honestly just as legendary as the shot itself. The Cavaliers finished that regular season with a 57-25 record, the best in the entire Eastern Conference. Chicago finished with only 47 wins. Cleveland swept all 6 regular season meetings against the Bulls that year. On paper, it wasn't even close. The Cavaliers were supposed to win this series easily. Jordan knew that. He also knew what every reporter and analyst was saying, and he remembered all of it. After eliminating Cleveland, Jordan famously declared that everyone who picked against him could, well, go somewhere unpleasant. That quote became one of the earliest examples of Jordan using outside doubt as personal fuel. He wasn't just competing against the Cavaliers, he was competing against every opinion that said he couldn't win. Jordan scored 44 points in that deciding game. The final minute featured 6 lead changes. With 3 seconds left and Chicago trailing by 1, he caught the inbound pass from Brad Sellers, dribbled right, and rose over Elo. The image of Jordan pumping his fist while Elo collapsed became one of the defining visuals of his entire career. Here's what makes it petty, though. Jordan already had an MVP award and a Defensive Player of the Year award from 1988. He didn't need to prove he was great. He was already great. But instead of simply celebrating one of the most iconic shots ever, he made sure every single person who doubted him knew he hadn't forgotten their name. That's not motivation. That's a list, and Jordan kept it forever. LeBron James's Ultimate Warrior t-shirt. In June of 2016, LeBron James led the Cleveland Cavaliers back from a 3-1 deficit in the NBA Finals to defeat the Golden State Warriors in 7 games. No team had ever done that before in finals history. The Warriors had won a record 73 regular season games. They were overwhelming favorites. Cleveland ended a 52-year championship drought for the city, and then came the parade. On June 22nd, LeBron showed up to the championship celebration in downtown Cleveland, wearing a black shirt featuring the Ultimate Warrior, a WWE character famous for dramatic victories over opponents. He also wore a cap showing the widely known Kermit sipping tea meme, which is commonly used to mock others while pretending to stay uninvolved. LeBron didn't say a single word about the Warriors. He didn't have to. His clothing did all the talking. That context matters a lot here. Steph Curry had won the unanimous MVP award that season. Draymond Green had mocked LeBron during the series, and Green's suspension for Game 5 became one of the key turning points. LeBron responded in the most LeBron way possible. He averaged 29.7 points, 11.3 rebounds, and 8.9 assists in the series, and became the only player in finals history to lead both teams in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks simultaneously. He won completely, undeniably, and then he put on a meme hat at the parade. The Kermit hat became one of the most memorable championship parade accessories in NBA history because it required zero explanation. Golden State blew a 3-1 lead, and LeBron was clearly enjoying every second of it without saying anything direct. That level of silent, perfectly timed trolling is genuinely impressive. It's one of the pettiest victory laps in sports history, and it's hard not to respect the execution. Larry Bird's second place speech. On February 8, 1986, the NBA held its first official 3-point contest during All-Star Weekend in Dallas. Before the competition even started, Larry Bird walked into the locker room and asked the other competitors which one of them was finishing second. That wasn't a joke. That was a warning. Bird kept his warm-up jacket on throughout the entire contest, treating the event as though it required minimal effort. He won the inaugural 3-point contest with a score of 22 points in the final round. After making the winning shots, he raised his right index finger before the contest was even officially over, signaling victory before the final ball dropped. He then won it again in 1987 and again in 1988, 3 consecutive titles. No player won more than 3 straight until decades later. Bird established the standard for shooting dominance at that event and did it while also winning 3 consecutive regular season MVP awards from 1984 through 1986 and leading the Celtics to the 1986 championship. So he wasn't some random shooter talking trash. He was the best player in the league at the time, and he still felt the need to walk into that locker room and publicly tell every other competitor that the contest was already decided. That's the part that makes it genuinely petty. He didn't just show up and dominate. He made sure everyone knew before the first shot went up that they weren't competing for first place. They were competing for second. And then he backed it up 3 years in a row. The combination of that level of confidence and that level of public disrespect toward the entire field is exactly why this moment still gets talked about decades later. Kyrie Irving's logo stomp. Kyrie Irving played for the Boston Celtics from the 2017 to 18 season through the 2018 to 19 season during a season ticket holder event at TD Garden on October 4th, 2018. Irving told fans directly that if they would have him back, he planned to re-sign with Boston. Celtics fans held on to that promise all season. That didn't happen. Boston finished 49-33 and lost in 5 games to the Milwaukee Bucks in the second round. Irving shot 6 for 21 in Game 4 and 7 for 22 in Game 5. That offseason, he signed a 4-year, $136.5 million maximum contract with the Brooklyn Nets. The relationship between Irving and Boston fans became extremely hostile almost immediately. In the 2021 first round of the playoffs, the second-seeded Nets faced the 7th-seeded Celtics. Brooklyn won 4-1. Game 4 took place on May 30th, 2021 at TD Garden. Irving scored 39 points on 11 for 24 shooting and helped Brooklyn win 141-126. After the final buzzer, as players were leaving the floor, Irving intentionally stepped directly on Lucky the Leprechaun, the Celtics center court logo. The game was already over. Brooklyn led the series 3-1. Irving wasn't reacting to anything live. He looked down, planted his foot on the logo, and walked toward the tunnel. It served zero basketball purpose. It was aimed directly at Boston's symbol at the most intentional, most calculated moment possible. That's what makes it so undeniably petty. He won the game, he was about to win the series, and he still needed that one extra moment to make a statement. Irving later said a water bottle was thrown at him by a fan after the stomp, and that fan was arrested and banned from TD Garden. But the stomp itself, that was purely personal. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Detroit Pistons walking off. From 1988 through 1990, the Detroit Pistons eliminated the Chicago Bulls in the playoffs 3 consecutive times. They won NBA championships in both 1989 and 1990. They were physical, they were relentless, and they built an entire defensive system called the Jordan Rules, specifically designed to punish Michael Jordan every time he touched the ball. By 1991, Chicago was ready. Jordan won the regular season MVP. The Bulls finished 61-21, and they swept Detroit 4-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Game 1, Chicago won 94-83. Game 2, 105-97. Game 3, 113-107. Game 4, 115-94. With 7.9 seconds left in Game 4, Bill Laimbeer started walking. Thomas, Laimbeer, Rodman, and most of the Pistons left the bench and headed directly to the locker room without shaking hands with Jordan, Scottie Pippen, or anyone else on the Bulls. Joe Dumars and John Sally were the most notable Pistons, who stayed and shook hands. Everyone else was gone. Before the buzzer finished echoing, Thomas later pointed to Celtics players leaving quickly after a 1988 loss to Detroit, but observers noted those Celtics didn't orchestrate a coordinated walk-off before the game was officially finished. The situations weren't the same. Jordan cited that moment repeatedly as the reason he lost respect for Thomas. He called Thomas's explanation in the documentary The Last Dance complete nonsense. The lasting consequence was significant. Thomas was left off the 1992 Dream Team, despite being one of the greatest point guards in NBA history. With Jordan and others reportedly opposing his inclusion, Detroit spent years demanding respect through physical play, then refused to show any when they finally lost. That contradiction is exactly what made the walk-off one of the pettiest moments ever. Chris Paul's untucked jersey play. On October 24th, 2019, the Oklahoma City Thunder hosted the Minnesota Timberwolves in a regular season game. It was Chris Paul's first season with Oklahoma City after being traded by the Houston Rockets in July of that year as part of the Russell Westbrook deal. Late in the fourth quarter, with the game close, Timberwolves forward Jordan Bell checked in. NBA rules require players entering the game to have their jerseys properly tucked in. Bell was still tucking his jersey while stepping onto the court. Paul noticed immediately. He flagged referee Mark Ayotte. Because Minnesota had already received a delay of game warning earlier, the second violation resulted in a technical foul. Danilo Gallinari made the free throw. Oklahoma City won the game 117-116. The technical foul free throw match the final margin exactly. If Bell's jersey had been tucked in, that free point doesn't exist, and the outcome could have been different. Paul later admitted he had known that rule for years and was waiting for his moment to use it. At that point in his career, he was an 11-time All-Star, a 9-time All-NBA selection, a 6-time steals leader, and the president of the National Basketball Players Association. He had mastered every corner of the rulebook. That's what makes this one of the most uniquely petty moments in NBA history. Paul didn't win that possession with athleticism or skill. He won it because he noticed that a guy's shirt wasn't tucked in. In a one-point game, that's the difference. He spent years storing that rule in his memory, waiting for the right game, the right moment, and the right untucked jersey. That's a level of pettiness that requires genuine patience and preparation. Anthony Davis's "That's All Folks" shirt on January 28, 2019. Anthony Davis informed the New Orleans Pelicans he wanted out. His agent Rich Paul of Clutch Sports made the announcement publicly. Davis had been named to 6 All-Star teams and still had a full guaranteed season left on his contract. The Los Angeles Lakers were immediately viewed as his preferred destination because they shared the same agency and featured LeBron James. The Pelicans held on to him through the trade deadline on February 7th. The NBA fined New Orleans $100,000 after determining the public trade request violated anti-tampering rules. Davis returned to the court in one of the most awkward situations imaginable, often playing reduced minutes for a team he had already announced he was leaving. Then came April 9th, 2019. The Pelicans played their final game of the season against the Golden State Warriors. After the game, Davis walked out of the arena wearing a black t-shirt featuring the phrase "That's all folks" with a Looney Tunes graphic. Davis later said he didn't realize the shirt would cause such a reaction and that a friend had sent it to him. But the timing was impossible to miss. It was his final night as a Pelican, and he chose to announce his departure using a cartoon catchphrase historically associated with endings. Davis won a championship with the Lakers in his first season after being traded on June 15, 2019, in a deal that included Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, the number 4 pick in the 2019 draft, and multiple future first-round picks and swap rights. He proved everything he needed to prove, but that shirt remains one of the most openly dismissive exit statements in NBA history. No press, conference, no farewell speech, just a Looney Tunes graphic and a message anyone could understand. Whether it was intentional or not, the image stuck. "That's all folks" was the perfect accidental goodbye. Shaq's Superman mockery. Shaq adopted the nickname Superman early in his NBA career. He wore a Superman cape during the 1993 Slam Dunk Contest and had the Superman logo tattooed on his arm. That nickname became a central part of his public identity for over a decade. Then in February 2008, Dwight Howard won the Slam Dunk Contest wearing a Superman cape and a Superman sticker on his jersey. Howard was already being called Superman by fans and media because of his athleticism and shot block. The name fit, the crowd loved it. Shaq did not love it. He repeatedly stated that Howard was not the real Superman and that there was only one Superman in basketball. The criticism intensified because Howard played the same position and was viewed as the most dominant big man of his generation. Howard led the Orlando Magic to the 2009 NBA Finals and won 3 consecutive Defensive Player of the Year awards from 2009 through 2011. Shaq mocked Howard in interviews, television appearances, and freestyle raps. He questioned Howard's toughness, minimized his accomplishments, and invented alternate nicknames to replace the Superman label. The feud lasted more than a decade. Even after both players retired, Shaq continued criticizing Howard's post moves, attitude, and overall legacy on television. In 2020, Howard helped the Lakers win the NBA championship and repeatedly called himself Superman during the celebration. Shaq publicly responded that Howard should stop using the name. That's the whole story right there. One of the most dominant players in NBA history spent years defending a superhero nickname as though it were a personal championship. Howard never claimed to be better than Shaq. He just wore a cape at a dunk contest, and Shaq never fully let it go. That's genuinely one of the pettiest long-term feuds in sports history. Kevin Durant's burner accounts. On September 17, 2017, Kevin Durant was replying to fans on Twitter from his verified account when he accidentally posted tweets that were clearly meant for a separate anonymous account. In one reply, Durant wrote in the third person that he didn't like the organization or playing for Billy Donovan and that the roster wasn't that good. He was talking about himself as if he were someone else, which immediately made it obvious he believed he was posting anonymously. The internet reacted instantly. Durant had left the Oklahoma City Thunder on July 4th, 2016 to sign with the Golden State Warriors, a team that had just won 73 regular season games and eliminated Durant's own Thunder after trailing 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals. The backlash was enormous and never fully stopped, so he went online anonymously and defended himself. He soon confirmed the tweets were his and that he had been, in his own words, childish. But the admission only made everything bigger. This wasn't a rumor anymore. It was confirmed. Durant, a 2-time Finals MVP and one of the greatest scorers in NBA history, had been secretly defending himself in the comments. After the Twitter incident, fans discovered a suspected Instagram account called Choir Sultan that regularly defended Durant and used similar language to his public posts. Durant never confirmed that account, but the mythology around his online behavior kept growing. By 2019, he stopped pretending to be embarrassed about burner accounts and publicly said he used them to talk privately and follow conversations without everything becoming public. In 2020, on the podcast All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, Durant said directly that he was still going to do the burner thing. Then in February 2026, during NBA All-Star Weekend, fans identified a private account on the platform formerly known as Twitter under the handle at GetHigher77. Screenshots leaked showing messages that criticized multiple current and former teammates, including Alperen Sengun, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Steph Curry. The leaked messages were nicknamed the KD file. Durant declined to confirm or deny ownership and said he wasn't there to discuss social media nonsense. No technical proof confirmed the account was his, but his history made the speculation impossible to dismiss. Durant is a future Hall of Famer who clearly cares deeply about what strangers say online. That combination is exactly why this story never ends. Reggie Miller's choke sign. On June 1st, 1994, Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers walked into Madison Square Garden for Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals, with the series tied 2-2. The Knicks had finished the regular season 57-25. Indiana had finished 47-35 as the 5th seed. New York had home court advantage. The crowd was loud, the building was electric, and Spike Lee was sitting courtside doing exactly what Spike Lee did at every important Knicks home game in the 1990s, which was talking nonstop to opposing players. Miller talked back, and then he started shooting. In the fourth quarter alone, Miller scored 25 points. He finished with 39 points total. Indiana outscored New York 35-16 in the fourth quarter and won 93-86. After multiple jumpers and three-pointers, Miller turned toward Spike Lee and used both hands to make a choking gesture around his throat. Not at the Knicks bench, directly at Lee. He was telling the most famous fan in the building that his team was collapsing under pressure. Miller later said he was responding to Lee's constant trash talk throughout the game. But the optics were undeniable. He hit shot after shot in front of 60,000+ of the most passionate fans in basketball. And instead of just celebrating, he found the most recognizable face in the crowd and mocked him specifically. The Pacers took a 3-2 series lead. Then the Knicks won Game 6 and Game 7 to advance to the 1994 NBA Finals. So Indiana lost the series after Miller's iconic performance. That makes it even more interesting. Miller called the Knicks out for choking, then his own team lost. The taunt didn't age perfectly, but none of that changed the image. The choke sign at Madison Square Garden permanently defined Miller as the Knick Killer, a reputation he fully embraced. The rivalry intensified the following year when he scored 8 points in 8.9 seconds in another playoff game at the Garden. Miller and New York never stopped being appointment television. Clippers banner covers from 1999 through 2024, the Los Angeles Clippers and the Los Angeles Lakers shared Staples Center, which was renamed Crypto.com Arena in 2021. The Lakers had 11 championships by the time the Clippers began sharing the arena in 1999. They displayed championship banners, retired jerseys, division banners, and conference titles throughout the building. For every Clippers home game, arena staff covered all of those banners and retired jerseys with large black and white drapes and Clippers-themed signage. The goal was straightforward: remove any visual evidence that the building had a history tied to another franchise. The practice became especially notable during the Lob City era from 2011 through 2017, when the Clippers built one of their most competitive rosters ever around Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. They were a legitimate contender. but they had never reached a conference finals before 2021 and had never won a championship. The Lakers had 16 titles by 2010 and 17 after winning the 2020 NBA Finals. Blake Griffin once acknowledged that the whole point was to make the arena feel like a Clippers building rather than a Lakers building. That's an honest answer, but it also highlights the gap between what those covered banners represented and what the Clippers had accomplished at that point. The pettiness here is institutional. It wasn't one player making a gesture or one moment in a game. It was an organization, every single home game for 25 years, physically hiding another franchise's entire championship history because they shared the same court. In 2024, the Clippers moved into Intuit Dome and the tradition ended. But for a quarter century, every Clippers tip-off began with someone draping a curtain over everything the Lakers had built. That's a long time to be that bothered. Trae Young's MSG bow, the Atlanta Hawks, entered the 2021 playoffs as the 5th seed. The New York Knicks were the 4th seed and were making their first postseason appearance since 2013. Knicks fans had been waiting 8 years for playoff basketball, and Madison Square Garden was absolutely energized for that first round series. Trae Young made them wait a little longer. In Game 1, Young scored 32 points and 10 assists and hit the game-winning floater with 0.9 seconds remaining. After the shot, he reportedly told the crowd it was quiet in there. That set the tone for the entire series. Knicks fans responded by chanting profanities at Young throughout every game, which turned out to be exactly the wrong strategy. Young averaged 32.9 points and 8.7 assists in the series. In the series, clinching Game 5 on June 2nd, 2021, he finished with 36 points and 9 assists, shooting 10 for 28 from the field and 17 for 19 from the free throw line. The Hawks won 103-89 and took the series 4-1. After the game was decided, Young walked to center court at Madison Square Garden and performed a deep theatrical bow toward the crowd, the same crowd that had been chanting at him for 2 weeks. He wasn't being subtle about it. He was thanking them for the motivation, eliminating them in their own building, and taking a curtain call, all in one gesture. Young later said he felt like a performer on Broadway, referencing the fact that Madison Square Garden sits in the heart of New York City theater culture. The bow was perfectly calculated. The Knicks had spent weeks building playoff hype. Their fans had made Young the villain of the series, and he responded by treating the whole thing as a live performance in which he was the star. Atlanta then defeated Philadelphia in the second round before losing to Milwaukee, but that bow at the Garden is what everyone remembered from that entire playoff run. Pippen's refusal. On May 13th, 1994, the Chicago Bulls faced the New York Knicks in Game 3 of the Eastern Conference semifinals at Chicago Stadium. The game was tied 102-102 with 1.8 seconds left. Head coach Phil Jackson designed the final play for rookie Tony Kukoc, not Scottie Pippen. Pippen had finished third in MVP voting that season. He had averaged 22 points, 8.7 rebounds, 5.6 assists, and 2.9 steals during the regular season while carrying Chicago after Michael Jordan's first retirement. He was the best player on the team, and Jackson drew the play up for someone else. So Pippen sat down. He refused to enter the game. Assistant Tex Winter and several teammates tried to convince him to sub in. He didn't move. Kukoc entered, caught the inbound pass, and made a turnaround jumper over Patrick Ewing to win the game 104-102. The moment immediately became one of the most memorable shots of Kukoc's career, which somehow made everything worse for Pippen. Horace Grant publicly criticized Pippen after the game and called the decision selfish. Pippen himself admitted his actions were wrong and said he regretted them. Chicago still pushed the Knicks to 7 games before losing the series. The pettiness here is almost impossible to overstate. Pippen had spent that entire season proving he could lead a team without Jordan. He had done it. He had earned the respect of the entire league. And then in one moment, personal frustration over a final play call led him to stay on the bench during the final second of a tied playoff game. Kukoc made the shot. The Bulls won, but all anyone could talk about was Pippen refusing to get up. He let ego override everything he had built that season in a single moment that lasted less than 2 seconds. Jalen Rose undercut. On June 9th, 2000, during Game 2 of the NBA Finals, Kobe Bryant suffered a severe left ankle sprain after landing on Jalen Rose's foot following a jump shot. Bryant missed Game 3 because of the injury. Years later, Rose stated publicly that he intentionally stepped underneath Bryant to prevent him from getting comfortable. He wanted Bryant to know that every shot would come with physical consequences. Rose was a starting guard for the Indiana Pacers, who were in their first ever NBA Finals appearance. Bryant was in his fourth NBA season and had become one of the most explosive players in the league. The Lakers were heavily favored. Rose's tactic was designed to change the physical terms of the series. Without Bryant in Game 3, Shaq fouled out in overtime, and the Lakers still won because Bryant returned from the injury and contributed key baskets late. Los Angeles ultimately won the series in 6 games. Indiana never reached the finals again. Rose's admission became controversial, specifically because of how openly he described the intent. Stepping under an airborne shooter is widely considered one of the most dangerous tactics in basketball. The landing space rules were later strengthened by the NBA precisely because of situations like this one. Rose has expressed respect for Bryant in other contexts, but he has never denied that the undercut was deliberate. Bryant went on to win 5 championships and become one of the greatest players in NBA history. Rose's career was solid, but never reached that level. The pettiness here comes from the admission itself, not just that it happened, but that Rose openly acknowledged the intent was to cause physical discomfort and potentially disrupt Bryant's rhythm through a tactic that could have caused serious harm. That kind of honesty about a questionable, competitive decision is rare, and it permanently attached Rose's name to one of the more uncomfortable moments in finals history. Jimmy Butler's third stringer practice. On October 10th, 2018, Jimmy Butler returned to practice with the Minnesota Timberwolves after formally requesting a trade. Butler had grown frustrated with the work habits and competitiveness of younger teammates, particularly Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. He had helped Minnesota reach the playoffs in 2018, ending a 14-year postseason drought for the franchise. And apparently, he felt like he was the only one who cared enough, so he decided to make that point in the most direct way possible. Butler reportedly picked a team of reserves and end-of-bench players and competed against a group featuring several starters and rotation players. Multiple reports stated Butler's side won repeatedly. He reportedly yelled toward general manager Scott Layden during the scrimmage, telling him that he needed Butler and couldn't win without him. National media was present because Butler's trade request had already become one of the biggest stories in the league. The next day, Butler gave a televised interview to ESPN discussing his dissatisfaction with the organization. He wasn't hiding any of it. He was broadcasting it. Less than 1 month later, on November 12th, 2018, Minnesota traded Butler to the Philadelphia 76ers. After his departure, the Timberwolves missed the playoffs in the 2018-19 season. What makes this one of the pettiest moments in NBA history isn't just the trash talk or the scrimmage result, it's the entire construction of it. Butler specifically chose his team, specifically beat the starters, specifically made sure executives were watching, and specifically made sure the media could see all of it. He turned the practice into a staged public statement designed to prove a point he had already made privately. He won the scrimmage, got traded a month later, and left the franchise in a significantly worse position than when he arrived. Every part of that was intentional. Juan Wick, Jaime Jaquez Jr., picked up one of the most talked about nicknames in recent NBA history during his rookie season with the Miami Heat in 2023 to 2024. The nickname is a play on the fictional assassin John Wick, swapping John for Juan, the Spanish equivalent, as a nod to Jaquez's Mexican heritage. His father is Mexican-American, and Jaquez has represented Mexico in international basketball. Heat fans ran with it because of his composed demeanor, his ability to score in multiple ways, and his completely unfazed presence under pressure. That calm, emotionless style reminded people of the John Wick character. What made it spread even faster is that Jaquez actually resembles Keanu Reeves physically. Same dark hair, similar facial features, serious expression. The joke just worked on multiple levels. It caught fire across social media and was picked up by outlets like GQ and Team Publication. By the end of his rookie year, Juan Wick had become the nickname most people associated with him. It's creative and it's stuck, but it's also built entirely on a pun tied to his ethnicity, with zero connection to his actual basketball numbers or achievements. It's more internet meme than traditional nickname, which is exactly what makes it both hilarious and one of the more absurd labels any player has carried in recent memory. It became famous almost instantly, not because of what he did on the court statistically, but because the joke landed perfectly and the internet ran with it at full speed. Leaning Tower of Pizza. Charles Barkley walked into the Philadelphia in the 1984 to 1985 season Listed at 6 feet 6 inches and weighing close to 300 pounds, he was undersized for a power forward and got absolutely roasted for it right away. Moses Malone, his own teammate, took one look at him and said he looked like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, except he swapped pizza for pizza to highlight Barkley's weight and eating habits. That's how Leaning Tower of Pizza was born. It was openly insulting, comparing him to a famous Italian landmark and a food at the same time. Malone wasn't holding back. What's actually wild is that the nickname worked. The teasing motivated Barkley to lose more than 50 pounds early in his career. He later credited Malone for helping transform him into an elite player. Barkley went on to become one of the greatest power forwards ever, an 11-time All-Star, the 1992 to 1993 most valuable player, and a Hall of Famer. He also collected other legendary nicknames along the way, including the Round Mound of Rebound, the Human Refrigerator, and Sir Charles. But Leaning Tower of Pizza remains one of the most memorable insults ever thrown at an NBA player because it was so specific, so visual, and came from a Hall of Fame teammate before Barkley had even played a single regular season game. It's a roast that somehow helped build one of the basketball's greatest careers, the Anomaly. Jason Tatum has gone by several nicknames throughout his career, but the Anomaly is the one that sparked the most debate. The nickname started circulating during the 2023 to 2024 and 2024 to 2025 seasons, as fans and media tried to describe what makes Tatum so difficult to guard. He stands 6 feet 8 inches and combines elite scoring, advanced footwork, perimeter shooting, defensive versatility, rebounding, and playmaking all at the same time. Supporters argued that very few players in NBA history have put all of those tools together at his size, which made Anomaly feel fitting. The nickname gained momentum after Tatum publicly said he liked it, which essentially ended the debate over what nickname he preferred. Earlier options like The Problem and Deuce's Dad never really stuck. But here's the issue with the Anomaly. It feels manufactured. The greatest nicknames in NBA history arrived organically and described something immediately obvious. Magic Johnson was called Magic because he did magical things from day one. Hakeem was the Dream because his footwork was otherworldly. The Anomaly instead sounds abstract and self-serious. It doesn't reference Tatum's appearance, his playing style, his background, or any single signature skill. It could honestly apply to dozens of star players. Across NBA history, that vagueness is the problem. It's a nickname that tries to say everything and ends up saying nothing specific, which is why so many fans considered it forced from the moment it started circulating. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton's nickname Halliburton is one of the most controversial in recent NBA history, and it's not hard to understand why. The nickname takes his last name, Halliburton, and replaces part of it with a phonetic variation that sounds like Taliban, the extremist militant group. The intent behind it, at least from the fans using it online, was to describe Halliburton terrorizing opposing defenses with his passing and clutch shot making. It didn't come from the Indiana Pacers organization or from NBA broadcasters. It started on social media, specifically on platforms like X and Instagram, and spread through Pacers fan communities and NBA meme accounts during Indiana's 2024 and 2025 playoff runs. Halliburton repeatedly hit game-winning and game-tying shots during those stretches and led one of the highest-paced offenses in the entire league. He also led the NBA in assists during the 2024 season. From a pure basketball standpoint, the nickname reflects how much chaos he causes opposing defenses with his deep three-point shooting, pick-and-roll reads, and low turnover passing. But the nickname's direct connection to a real-world extremist organization responsible for war and human rights abuses is the main reason it lands here. It's almost entirely shock value. The joke is just that his last name sounds similar to Taliban, and that's it. There's no deeper creativity behind it, no reference to anything about his game, beyond the vague idea that he's dangerous. It spread fast, got acknowledged by major publications, but the controversy never really went away. And it's not hard to see why. Big science. Jack Armstrong, the longtime Toronto Raptors television analyst and Hall of Fame broadcaster, gave Jonas Valanciunas the nickname Big Science during Valanciunas' time with the Raptors from 2012 to 2019. Armstrong was famous for his catchphrase, "It's not rocket science," during broadcasts, because Valanciunas was a massive center standing 7 feet tall and weighing more than 260 pounds. Armstrong adapted that phrase and started calling him Big Science. That's really the entire origin. There's no deeper meaning. It has nothing to do with Valanciunas' intelligence, academic background, or any specific basketball skill. It's just a broadcaster pun built around his size and a popular saying. Valanciunas was selected 5th overall in the 2011 NBA draft and developed into one of the most productive traditional centers in the league. He consistently put up double-double, ranked among the best offensive rebounders in basketball, and was one of the most efficient post scorers of his era. His old-school style made him stand out even more as the league shifted toward stretch big men. But big science describes none of that. It's completely abstract. Someone hearing it for the first time without context would have no idea it referred to Valanciunas or what aspect of his game it was even supposed to represent. It sounds more like the name of a research lab than an NBA player. Outside of Raptors fans and people familiar with Armstrong's broadcasts, the nickname barely existed. That combination of total abstraction, zero basketball relevance, and purely regional recognition makes it one of the more bizarre nicknames ever attached to a legitimate NBA starter. The Big Handsome. Cody Zeller earned the nickname The Big Handsome during his college career at Indiana University Bloomington, where he played for the Indiana Hoosiers from 2011 to 2013. At 7 feet tall, with blonde hair and blue eyes, Zeller stood out visually compared to most players, and fans started calling him the Big Handsome because of his conventionally attractive appearance. The nickname followed him into the NBA after he was selected 4th overall in the 2013 NBA draft by the Charlotte Hornets, who were still called the Bobcats at the time. Broadcasters and fans carried it throughout his professional career. Zeller built a reputation as a fundamentally sound center. He was known for setting screens, rebounding, making smart decisions, and finishing around the basket. He wasn't an all-star, but he played more than a decade in the NBA as a reliable rotation big man. The issue with the nickname is obvious though. It's built entirely around his physical appearance and has nothing to do with basketball. Most respected NBA nicknames reflect skill, dominance, or a defining on-court trait. The Big Handsome tells you he's tall and considered attractive, and that's it. It sounds more like a dating profile description than a sports nickname, and it completely lacks the toughness or on-court identity that great nicknames tend to carry. It also got applied occasionally to Nikola Jokic, who earned the much more recognizable Big Honey. The Big Handsome never got close to that level of recognition and stayed mostly tied to Zeller's specific image, which is probably the most politely awkward outcome a nickname like this could have. Benjamin Buckets. LeBron James has carried some of the most iconic nicknames in basketball history. King James, the Chosen One, the Akron Hammer, and then there's Benjamin Buckets, which stands alone as the strangest entry on that list. The nickname connects to The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, the 2008 film where the main character physically ages in reverse. Cleveland Cavaliers head coach Tyronn Lue made the comparison during training camp before the 2017 to 2018 season, when he said LeBron appeared to be getting younger, despite already having played 14 NBA seasons. Lue referred to him as Benjamin Button. At some point, Basketball Reference listed the nickname as Benjamin Buckets, swapping Button for Buckets, as a nod to basketball slang for scoring. The result is a nickname that sounds like the name of a fictional banker, not a 4-time most valuable player. It was never used regularly in broadcasts or interviews. It wasn't attached to a signature skill or a specific moment. Most fans only discovered it existed because it appeared on a database and people mocked it online. LeBron already had a full roster of legitimate nicknames that carried actual weight. Benjamin Buckets sounds clunky next to all of them. It's the definition of a forced word swap that makes more sense on paper than it ever did spoken out loud. The nickname became famous almost entirely because fans found it funny for the wrong reasons, which is a pretty unusual achievement for someone who's arguably the most decorated player in NBA history. The Dancing Bear. Draymond Green picked up the nickname The Dancing Bear during his college career at Michigan State, and it followed him into professional basketball long enough to be listed as one of his official nicknames. The phrase has historically been used to describe a large person who moves with surprising agility, and it captures something real about Green's game. At Michigan State, he was listed at 6 feet 6 inches, played power forward and center, carried more weight than most players at his height, and still handled the ball and passed like a guard. Head coach Tom Izzo and others frequently referenced his unconventional physique and versatile movement. Green is undersized for a front court player, heavier than most wings, and yet he can defend every position on the floor and operate as a primary playmaker for his team. The dancing bear technically describes that quality. The problem is that it does so by comparing him to a circus animal. It focuses on his body shape rather than the elite intelligence, defensive instincts, and playmaking ability that actually define his game. It sounds more like a joke than a nickname for a player who's won 4 NBA championships and is considered one of the most impactful defenders of his generation. Sports Illustrated specifically called it one of the goofiest official basketball reference nicknames. Fans rarely use it in everyday conversation, and it's almost never heard during broadcasts. For a future Hall of Famer, the dancing bear is a strange thing to have attached to your name, even if it accidentally tells a small piece of the story. Threezus. Kyle Korver was one of the greatest shooters in NBA history, and the nickname Threezus tried to put that on record in the most dramatic way possible. The name combines three for the three-point shot and Jesus, and was used to describe Korver's near-automatic shooting from deep. The statistical case behind it is real. He finished his career with 2,450 regular season three-pointers made. He shot 42.9% from three for his entire career. He led the NBA in three-point percentage 4 times. He was a member of the exclusive 50-40-90 club in the 2009 to 2010 season. During the 2014 to 2015 season with the Atlanta Hawks, he averaged 12.1 points, shot 49.2% from three, made 221 threes, and hit a three in 127 consecutive games. That same season, Atlanta won 60 games and had all 5 starters named Eastern Conference Players of the Month for January 2015. The nickname made sense in context. The problem is that it uses religious wordplay, sounds exaggerated, and depends entirely on one skill. It's also more pun than traditional nickname. Classic NBA nicknames carry weight without requiring explanation. Threezus is clever, but it also sounds like something a fan account came up with during a hot streak rather than a nickname that grows naturally out of someone's career. The humor and the absurdity are both intentional, but that's also exactly what lands it in the conversation about the worst nicknames the sport has produced. The Michael Jordan of Delaware, Dante DiVincenzo. Nickname is exactly as absurd as it sounds. He was born on January 31st, 1997 in Newark, Delaware, one of the smallest states in the country, and a place that has produced very few notable NBA players. Because of that, fans jokingly crowned him as Delaware's basketball king by using the most extreme comparison possible. The nickname exploded nationally during the 2018 NCAA tournament when Devo came off the bench for Villanova in the national championship game against Michigan. He scored 31 points, made 5 three-pointers, grabbed 5 rebounds, and recorded 3 assists in a 79-62 victory. His 31 points were the most ever by a bench player in a national championship game. He was named the NCAA Final Four Most Outstanding Player. After that performance, the Michael Jordan of Delaware nickname got revived and stuck to him permanently. The comparison is intentionally ridiculous. Jordan won 6 NBA championships, 6 Finals Most Valuable Player awards, 5 regular season Most Valuable Player awards, and 10 scoring titles. Devo is a highly valuable role player, not remotely in that conversation by any definition. The nickname is also just too long. Great nicknames are short and immediately descriptive. The Michael Jordan of Delaware is a full sentence that works entirely as a meme. Its humor lives in the absurd gap between the most prestigious comparison in basketball and a player whose real reputation is that of a strong complementary piece. Memorable, yes. One of the strangest nicknames ever attached to a professional player. Absolutely. World B flat. Kyrie Irving is one of the most skilled guards in NBA history. He's also the person whose name became permanently attached to one of the most satirical nicknames the sport has ever seen. In February 2017, Irving said on the podcast Road Trippin' that he believed the earth was flat. The comments generated international attention and became one of the most discussed off-court stories of that entire NBA season. Irving later said he was trying to encourage people to question accepted information, but the damage to his public image was already done. Fans took the name World B. Free, the iconic player who legally changed his name from Lloyd Bernard Free in 1981 and swapped Free for Flat to create World B. Flat. It became extremely popular online and got referenced whenever Irving's unconventional beliefs came up in conversation. From a wordplay standpoint, it's sharp. It references an existing basketball figure and ties directly to one of the most famous controversies of Irving's career. The problem is that it has nothing to do with his actual basketball ability. Irving finished his career as one of the most technically gifted ball handlers and scorers the league has ever seen. He's capable of shots most players can't even attempt, and yet one of his most famous nicknames is built entirely around a scientific misconception. That disconnect between extraordinary talent and the subject of the nickname is what makes it so strange. It's not a nickname about what he does on the floor. It's a permanent reminder of one of the most widely criticized things he ever said publicly, and it followed him for the rest of his career. Big Musty. Wilt Chamberlain has one of the most statistically dominant careers in the history of professional sports. He scored 100 points in a single game on March 2nd, 1962. He averaged 50.4 points per game during the 1961 to 1962 season. He averaged 25.7 rebounds per game for his entire career. He won 4 Most Valuable Player awards, 2 NBA championships, 7 scoring titles, 11 rebounding titles, and even led the league in assists in 1968. His legitimate nicknames, Wilt the Stilt and the Big Dipper, are iconic. Wilt the Stilt referenced his 7'1" frame and long legs. The Big Dipper came from his habit of ducking through doorways. Both of those names say something real about who he was. Big Musty says none of that. The nickname is an internet-era creation that emerged decades after his playing career ended. The slang term musty gets used online to describe someone perceived as old, dusty, or outdated. Because Chamberlain played in the 1950s, 60s, and early 70s, younger fans started using Big Musty as a joking way to portray him as a relic of a primitive basketball era. It's intentionally dismissive. It trivializes one of the most extraordinary athletic careers ever recorded and reduces a generational talent to a meme about age and appearance. Compared to Wilt the Stilt and the Big Dipper, it has no connection to his playing style, his athleticism, or his accomplishments. It's one of the most disrespectful nicknames ever attached to a legitimate all-time great, and that alone earns it a permanent spot on this list. Joe Jackson. Derek Coleman was the first overall pick in the 1990 NBA draft by the New Jersey Nets. He won the 1990 to 1991 Rookie of the Year award. He made 2 All-Star teams. He was named to the All-NBA third team in 1992 to 1993. He was one of the most talented power forwards of the entire decade. None of that is what his nickname Joe Jackson references. The nickname compares him to Joe Jackson, the father and manager of the Jackson family, which included Michael Jackson, Jermaine Jackson, and Janet Jackson. The origin came from Coleman's personal life. During his playing career, he became known among teammates and media for having numerous children, and the nickname drew a comparison to Joe Jackson, who famously fathered and managed 9 children who became internationally known entertainers. That's the entire connection. There's nothing about scoring, rebounding, passing, or anything that happened on a basketball court. The nickname had no relationship to Coleman's playing style or personality during games. It was based on a personal family detail, was rarely spoken publicly, and required significant background knowledge to even understand. Most fans hearing Joe Jackson in an NBA context would think of the baseball player from the early 1900s before making any connection to Coleman. It never became part of mainstream basketball conversation, never explained anything about his game, and offered no immediate meaning to anyone watching. For a player with a legitimate resume, it's one of the most obscure and confusing nicknames in the history of the sport. Sweet Melon. Carmelo Anthony finished his career with 28,289 regular season points. He made 10 All-Star teams. He earned 6 All-NBA selections. He won the 2012 to 2013 scoring title. He averaged 22.5 points per game for his career. He won a national championship at Syracuse in 2003. And somehow, one of the nicknames attached to his name is Sweet Melon. The wordplay starts with Carmelo, which gets shortened to Mello. From there, someone swapped Mello for Melon and turned his name into a fruit. The sweet portion supposedly refers to his reputation as one of the smoothest scorers in NBA history. The result is a nickname that converts one of the most prolific scorers of his generation into a produce section item. Most people who followed Anthony's career knew him as Mello, Hoodie Mello, or Olympic Mello. Sweet Melon wasn't circulating in television broadcasts or fan conversations. It became known mostly because it showed up on nickname databases rather than through any organic moment in his career. It's not that the wordplay is technically wrong, it's that it adds nothing. Mellow already works perfectly. It's short, recognizable, and widely used. Sweet Melon just takes that name and makes it weird without adding any new meaning, identity, or description. For a player with Anthony's resume, ending up with a nickname that sounds like a smoothie flavor is a genuinely strange outcome, and that's exactly what earns it a spot on this list. Armadillo Cowboy. Joe Johnson has an actual nickname that fits him perfectly. ESO Joe became famous because Johnson was one of the best isolation scorers of his entire era. He made 7 All-Star teams, scored more than 20,000 career points, hit multiple game-winning shots, and was a key player for the Phoenix Suns, Atlanta Hawks, Brooklyn Nets, and Utah Jazz throughout his career. ESO Joe tells you exactly what he does. Armadillo Cowboy tells you absolutely nothing. That nickname came from Johnson's background. He was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, and attended the University of Arkansas. Armadillos are common animals in the southern United States, and cowboy gets used as a broad symbol of rural southern culture. Someone combined those two things and called it a basketball nickname, which is a stretch by any reasonable standard. The nickname appeared on Basketball Reference, but was almost never used by broadcasters or fans. It doesn't describe Johnson's playing style, his scoring ability, his demeanor, or any on-court characteristic. It sounds like the title of a country music album that got accidentally attached to a professional athlete. Even within the category of geography-based nicknames, it doesn't work because there's no natural connection between armadillos and basketball. ESO Joe remained his defining nickname throughout his career because it actually meant something. Armadillo Cowboy is just genuinely difficult to understand, overly long and completely overshadowed by a nickname that does everything a good sports nickname is supposed to do. Bite. Mike Conley is known across the NBA for his professionalism, his leadership, and his reputation as one of the most respected veterans in the league. He's been praised for elite pick-and-roll decision-making, low turnover rates, strong perimeter defense, and efficient three-point shooting. His more traditional nicknames include Captain Clutch and Mountain Mike. And then there's Bite, which came from his son, Miles. Conley was traded to the Utah Jazz in July 2019. As he became a fan favorite in Utah, the story of his nickname spread publicly. His young son, who was still learning to speak, tried to say bye-bye whenever Conley left for road trips or games. Because of his age, Miles pronounced it as Bite. The phrase became a family term, Conley shared it publicly, and Jazz fans embraced it completely. It showed up on social media, on fan merchandise, and on signs at games. Conley acknowledged it and said he appreciated the personal connection behind it. It's a genuinely wholesome origin story, and that's not in dispute. The problem is that Bite sounds nothing like the nickname of an NBA All-Star. It sounds like something a toddler calls a house pet. Someone hearing it without any context would have no reason to connect it to a professional basketball player with more than 15 years of NBA experience. It provides zero indication of Conley's skill, toughness, leadership, or role on any team he's played for. That contrast between the childlike sound of the nickname and the actual respect Conley commands across the league is what makes it one of the most uniquely strange monikers in basketball history. Mini LeBron. Eric Bledsoe was selected 18th overall in the 2010 NBA draft by the Oklahoma City Thunder and was immediately traded to the Los Angeles Clippers. Early in his career, standing approximately 6 feet 1 inch tall and weighing around 200 pounds, Bledsoe had an exceptionally muscular build, broad shoulders, and explosive athleticism. His body type and facial features resembled a smaller version of LeBron James, which is how Mini LeBron started circulating among fans and analysts. The comparison picked up traction while Bledsoe was playing behind Chris Paul during the Clippers' Lob City era. His style of play added fuel to the comparison. He drove to the rim powerfully, had elite end-to-end speed, defended multiple positions, and rebounded well for a guard. But the nickname created a nearly impossible standard. LeBron James has multiple championships, multiple most valuable player awards, and is one of the most accomplished players in basketball history. Bledsoe developed into a legitimate NBA player in his own right. He earned all defensive team honors and averaged more than 20 points per game during his prime seasons. By any normal standard, that's an excellent career. But Mini LeBron isn't a normal standard. It defines a player entirely in relation to someone else and automatically sets an expectation that almost no one in the history of the sport could realistically meet. As Bledsoe established his own identity, the nickname faded, but it remains one of the clearest examples of how a well-intentioned comparison can follow a player in the wrong direction, before he's even had a chance to build a legacy of his own. The human victory cigar. Darko Milicic was selected second overall in the 2003 NBA draft by the Detroit Pistons. He was picked ahead of Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, and Wade in a draft that's now widely considered one of the strongest in NBA history. Detroit was a championship contender at the time, led by Chauncey Billups, Richard Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, and Ben Wallace. Head coach Larry Brown rarely trusted rookies in that environment, which meant Milicic barely played. During the 2003 to 2004 season, he averaged just 4.7 minutes per game. He entered games almost exclusively in the final minutes of comfortable wins, and that pattern gave fans and media the material they needed. The term victory cigar refers to a celebratory cigar traditionally smoked by coaches after a blowout. In basketball, it evolved into slang for a reserve player who enters only when the outcome is already decided. Milicic fit that description so consistently that the human victory cigar became his defining nickname. The cruelty of it is tied directly to his draft position. Second overall picks are supposed to become franchise cornerstones. Instead, he was symbolic. End of bench insurance on a team that didn't need him. He did win an NBA championship in 2004, making him one of the youngest players ever to earn a title, but he played just 14 total playoff minutes during that entire championship run. The nickname is openly sarcastic and highlights one of the most jarring gaps between expectation and reality in draft history. It remains one of the most cutting nicknames the sport has ever produced. Grocery list. O.J. Mayo's full legal name is Ovington J. Anthony Mayo. His initials were O.J., and his last name was Mayo. When spoken out loud, that combination sounds less like the name of a professional basketball player and more like two items someone writes down before heading to the supermarket. O.J. stands for orange juice, and Mayo is mayonnaise. The nickname grocery list emerged from that accidental food reference and became one of the most unintentionally insulting monikers ever attached to a high-profile prospect. Mayo was a nationally ranked prodigy before reaching the NBA. He starred at the University of Southern California, was named Pac-10 Freshman of the Year, and was selected third overall in the 2008 NBA Draft. During his NBA career, he averaged 13.8 points per game and played for the Memphis Grizzlies, Dallas Mavericks, and Milwaukee Bucks. The nickname had nothing to do with any of that. It was instantly understandable, had no connection to basketball whatsoever, and turned his actual name into a running joke that never fully went away. It became one of his best-known unofficial nicknames, not because of anything he did on the court, but because his name accidentally sounds like a grocery run. For a player drafted third overall with legitimate star potential, being remembered in part because your name sounds like condiments and breakfast drinks is a uniquely rough outcome. It's also one of those nicknames that works immediately on first hearing, which is somehow both the best and worst thing about it. Don't Google. Evan Fournier played for the Denver Nuggets, Orlando Magic, Boston Celtics, New York Knicks, and Detroit Pistons during his NBA career. He scored efficiently from the outside, was a reliable rotation piece, and built a solid professional resume. None of that is what his nickname references. Don't Google became his most famous label because of Fournier gangrene, a rare and serious bacterial infection that shares his surname. The condition is named after 19th century French physician Jean-Alfred Fournier, who described the disease. Because the two share the same last name, searching Fournier online often produced graphic medical results instead of basketball highlights. Fans started warning each other not to search his name, and the phrase, "Don't Google Evan Fournier," spread widely enough that Fournier himself acknowledged it on social media, posting that he had personally experienced the search result. The nickname has no basketball meaning. It references a medical condition. It exists entirely as an internet warning. It became famous because of what shows up in a search engine rather than anything that happened during a game. It's also a nickname Fournier couldn't exactly distance himself from since it's attached to his actual last name. The fact that a legitimate NBA player's most memorable cultural footprint involves warning people not to search his surname is one of the stranger outcomes any professional athlete has had to navigate. For what it's worth, Fournier handled it publicly with a sense of humor, but it remains one of the most unusual reasons any player has ever ended up with a nickname in the first place. Big Government. Reggie Jackson's nickname, Big Government, is creative, politically charged, and makes almost no sense as a traditional sports moniker. Clippers teammate Nicholas Batum is widely credited with popularizing it. The explanation Batum gave was that Jackson always bailed the team out with timely shots, similar to how big government, in political terminology, describes a government that arrives to provide assistance during emergencies. The basketball logic is actually there when you break it down. The problem is that it requires a political science explanation before anyone understands it. During the 2021 NBA playoffs, Jackson became one of the most important players on the Clippers roster after Kawhi Leonard missed the end of the postseason. Jackson averaged 17.8 points per game in the playoffs that year and scored at least 20 points in multiple games. The Clippers reached the Western Conference Finals for the first time in franchise history. His performances were legitimate, and the nickname grew out of a real moment. But Big Government still sounds nothing like a sports nickname. It's oddly formal, bureaucratic, and requires full context to land. Classic nicknames describe something immediately. Big Government sounds like a political science lecture that wandered into a basketball conversation. Fans embraced it because it was clever and backed by actual clutch performances. But when placed next to traditional NBA nicknames built on skill, dominance, or personality, it stands out as one of the most unusual phrases ever used to describe a professional basketball player. That combination of genuine creativity and total weirdness is exactly why it belongs on this list. LeBron James. In the 2007 season, he dragged Cleveland through every round. He averaged over 27 points during the regular season, doubling Larry Hughes, who only managed 14.9. He also led the team in rebounds and assists, playing over 40 minutes a night. In the playoffs, that jumped to almost 45. No one else averaged more than 12 points. Ilgauskas gave decent rebounding. Hughes shot poorly when it counted, and Gooden just held steady. Snow acted more like a coach than a player. Gibson had one hot game in the East Finals, but wasn't consistent. Despite that, LeBron took them to their first ever finals. There, he still averaged over 22 points, 7 rebounds, and nearly 7 assists, but turned it over a lot and shot under 36%. That 2007 squad was the definition of a one-man team. Allen Iverson. In the 2001 season, he did everything but mop the court. He averaged over 31 points, led the league in steals, and played more than 40 minutes a night. Philly won 56 games and reached the finals for the first time since 1983. In Game 1, Iverson dropped 48 and gave the Lakers their only playoff loss. No one else came close to his output. McKee added about 11 points and 5 assists off the bench. Dikembe helped defensively, averaging nearly 12 points, 12 boards, and blocking shots like a wall. Snow ran the offense with around 7 assists, but his scoring barely cracked double digits. Hill grabbed rebounds and chipped in a few points. No teammate averaged even half of Iverson's scoring. He led in every big moment, every close game, every stat line that mattered. That year, he carried everything. DeMarcus Cousins. In the 2016 season, he bulldozed his way through defenders every night. He averaged nearly 27 points and over 11 rebounds, with more assists, steals, and blocks than anyone had a right to expect from a big man. He played the most on the team and still dropped 48 and 56 points in back-to-back games that January. Nobody else came close. Rudy Gay chipped in with around 17 a night, and Collison added 14, but neither could carry. Rondo passed a lot, but didn't move the needle. Caspi and Bellinelli added some threes, but were inconsistent. Willie Cauley was still learning the ropes. Sacramento missed the playoffs, finishing 33 and 49. And without Cousins, they looked totally lost. That roster just hovered around him. Cousins was the only consistent force, the only real threat. That year, he did it solo. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Russell Westbrook. In the 2017 season, he turned every game into his personal marathon. After Durant bounced, the team was his alone. He averaged over 31 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists, finishing with 42 triple-doubles, more than anyone in the league history. When he notched one, they went 33 and 9. The whole system ran through him. Adams held down the paint and gave about 11 points, and Oladipo added 16. But he was young. Nobody truly shared the spotlight. Cantor and Robertson played roles, but none touched Westbrook's usage. He played with fury, and when the playoffs came, he averaged 37 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists, but they still lost in 5 to Houston. That roster just couldn't keep up. Westbrook handled over 40% of their possessions. Every shot, pass, and late gameplay went through him. That year, Oklahoma City ran entirely on Russ. Kemba Walker. In the 2019 season, he carried Charlotte like a backpack full of bricks. He played all 82 games, averaged over 25 points, nearly 6 assists, and hit career highs across the board. He earned All-NBA honors, shattered team records, and still couldn't get them into the playoffs. Jeremy Lamb gave 15 points per game, and everyone else barely made a dent. Batum faded, Zeller rebounded a bit, and Bismack mostly just existed. Kemba opened the season with 41 and closed with 43, but the Hornets lost 6 of his 7 40-point games. His usage was sky high, and the win shares told the story. He ranked 34th, while the next best teammate didn't even crack the top 70. They went 39 and 43. He left for Boston after, and honestly, that year proved it. He was the whole operation. One man, one team. Joe Johnson. In the 2007 season, he was Atlanta's entire offense in a Hawks jersey. He averaged 25 points, over 4 assists, and shot a career-best 47%. No one else was close. Josh Smith added athleticism with around 16 points, and Marvin Williams gave about 13, but both were still developing. The team didn't have a reliable big, and Horford wouldn't arrive until the next season. Johnson made his first All-Star game that year, despite playing only 57 games, due to a calf injury. That tells you how essential he was. He created his own shot, ran the late game sets, and took every key possession. When the game slowed down, the ball went to him every time. That roster just circled around him, and his scoring did the heavy lifting all season. It was all Joe. Power. From 2001 to 2004, he carried Memphis on those lanky Spanish shoulders. As a rookie, he averaged over 17 points, nearly 9 rebounds, and 2 blocks, playing all 82 games. That got him Rookie of the Year. The next seasons, more of the same. He scored about 19 a game in 2003, then led again with almost 18 the year after. Nobody else on those rosters brought consistent scoring. Battier and Jason Williams pitched in, but it was Powell who handled the heavy lifting. He became the team's top scorer, rebounder, and shot blocker, all while barely missing games. When Memphis finally made the playoffs in 2004, it was on the back of his effort. He set franchise records and made them look like a real team. Everything good they did back then started and ended with Powell. He was the foundation. Michael Jordan. In the 1988 season, he did everything except run the concession stand. He averaged 35 points, over 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, and nearly 2 blocks while playing all 82 games in over 40 minutes a night. He won Most Valuable Player and Defensive Player of the Year. Nobody else has ever done that in the same season. His teammates, Oakley pulled down rebounds, but the scoring was light. Pippen and Grant were rookies, still figuring out how to breathe on an NBA court. Paxson and Corzine were steady, not spectacular. The Bulls won 50 games, but in the playoffs, Jordan carried the load again, dropping 55, 50, 44, and dragging them through the first round before falling to Detroit. Every possession, every big shot, every highlight started with him. In that year, he wasn't just their best player, he was the whole show. Kevin Love. In the 2014 season, he filled every column on the stat sheet, while the Timberwolves filled empty seats. He averaged over 26 points and 12 rebounds, plus over 4 assists per game. No one else came close. He became the first player ever with 2,000 points, 900 boards, and 100 threes in a season. Pekovic gave them about 17 and 8, and Kevin Martin added 19, but both were streaky and not exactly elite. Brewer chipped in with 12, and Rubio handed out assists like candy but couldn't score. Love played 77 games, led the team in minutes, and still didn't get them to the playoff. Minnesota finished 40 and 42. No all-stars around him, no real co-star, just Kevin Love dragging them up and down the court. That year, the Timberwolves were basically Love and whoever wasn't in foul trouble. Danny Granger. In the 2009 season, he turned Indiana into his own solo highlight reel. He averaged over 25 points across 67 games, the highest of his career, and earned Most Improved Player and an All-Star spot. No teammate came close to his scoring. TJ Ford led in assists, but couldn't stay healthy. Troy Murphy grabbed rebounds and stretched the floor, but wasn't a reliable scoring threat. The rest, Jarrett Jack, Jeff Foster, Marquise Daniels, Brandon Rush, were fine, just not impactful. Granger scored over 30 a bunch of times, even dropped 42 once. He finished the season averaging over 31 in the last 11 games, but it wasn't enough. The Pacers went 36 and 46 and missed the playoff. Nobody else averaged more than half his points. That year, he wasn't just their best player, he was practically their only one. Anthony Davis. In the 2018 season, once Cousins tore his Achilles, Davis turned into the entire franchise. He led the league in blocks, averaged over 28 points, 11 rebounds, and nearly 3 blocks per game. He set team records in scoring, blocks, and became the all-time leader in points and rebounds. the Pelicans' whole strategy flipped. Spread the floor and let Davis handle everything. Jrue Holiday helped with solid defense and scoring, but he wasn't carrying games. Rondo dished out assists and added energy, and Mirotic gave some spacing. Moore and Diallo chipped in around the edges. But Davis was the centerpiece, scoring, rebounding, defending, and dominating. He capped it off with 47 in a playoff sweep against Portland. No other Pelican came close in impact. After Cousins went down, the team was Davis. Every game, every possession, every win. He wasn't just leading, he was the team. Kobe Bryant, in the 2006 season, he averaged over 35 points, played 41 minutes a night, and basically ran the whole show. He dropped 81 points in one game, more than 2/3 of the team's total. He scored 40 or more 27 times and racked up over 2,800 points. The Lakers had a top 3 offense with him on the floor, and when he sat, it tanked by nearly 20 points. Lamar Odom did a bit of everything, but wasn't a scorer. Bynum and Kwame Brown added size, but not much firepower. Smush Parker and Luke Walton floated around. In the playoffs, they went up 3-1 on Phoenix, then collapsed. Kobe took only 3 shots in the second half of Game 7. That whole year was one long Kobe performance with minimal help. It was pure one-man team territory. Al Jefferson. In the 2008 season, he was Minnesota's only consistent weapon. He averaged over 21 points and 11 rebounds across all 82 games. That's a double-double machine on a 22-win team. He shot 50%, dominated the paint, and even earned Player of the Week in January by averaging 33 points and 15 boards. His supporting cast, Rashad McCants scored almost 15, but he was streaky. Ryan Gomes added 12, Foy hovered near double digits, and Telfair tried to play point guard, sort of. Brewer, Smith, Ratliff, and Walker filled minutes, but none were consistent scorers or rebounders. Post Garnett, this was Jefferson's show. He carried the offense, led in minutes, and logged more rebounds than anyone. Every night, it was clear. Without him, the Wolves weren't just bad, they were invisible. That year, Jefferson didn't just play big, he was the whole team. Tyreke Evans. In the 2010 season, he hit the league running, putting up over 20 points, 5 rebounds, and nearly 6 assists a night as a rookie. Only 3 players had ever done that before. He played over 37 minutes a game and led the team in steals and usage. Kevin Martin scored in the teens, but didn't match Tyreek's all-around impact. Oudraogo and Hawes were fine role players, but not star. Caspi, Thompson, and Landry chipped in occasionally. Evans won Rookie of the Year, made the All-Rookie First Team, and twice took home Rookie of the Month honors. He carried them to a wild 35-point comeback against Chicago, doing it all on both ends. Sacramento went 25 and 57, and when Evans wasn't clicking, the whole team sank. That rookie season wasn't just historic, it was Tyreke doing everything while everyone else just filled space. Chris Paul. In the 2008 season, he took the Hornets, somewhere they'd never been. 56 wins and a division title. He averaged over 21 points, led the league in assists and steals, and played 80 games at over 11 assists a night. No other guard was close. He set franchise records in assists, double-doubles, and playoff dimes. In the postseason, he put up 24 and 12 against Dallas, making history with back-to-back 30-point double-digit assist games. But nobody controlled the court like Paul. He ran the offense, locked up on defense, and carried their identity. When he scored 20 or more, they went 31 and 11. That year, the Hornets weren't just good, they were Paul, start to finish. Damian Lillard. In the 2020 season, he did everything except sell tickets. He averaged 30 points, 8 assists, and over 4 rebounds while logging nearly 38 minutes a game. He dropped 61 points twice. During a 6-game run in late January, he averaged nearly 50. Lillard dragged them to 35 wins and an 8th seed, powering their play-in survival in the bubble. He initiated every attack, broke every trap, and bailed them out of close games. Critics said he looked like a solo act in a drama nobody else auditioned for. The Blazers had players, but Lillard was the system, the offense, the closer, the hope. That season, Portland was Dame and whoever showed up. Jrue Holiday. In the 2013 season, he did everything short of coaching. He averaged nearly 18 points, 8 assists, and over 1.5 steals across 78 games. At just 22, he became the youngest All-Star in Sixers history and led the team in points, assists, and steals. When he shot under 40%, they went 4 and 12. That's how much they depended on him. Evan Turner gave them around 14 points, but didn't create much. Thad Young chipped in 13, and Hawes rebounded, but none came close to Jrue's workload. The rest, Nick Young, Lavoy Allen, Jason Richardson were just filling space. Philly missed the playoffs at 34-48. Holiday was the offense, the defense, the heartbeat. Without him, there was no structure. That year, he wasn't just the point guard, he was the entire point of the team. Devin Booker. In the 2019 season, he was Phoenix's entire blueprint. He averaged over 26 points and nearly 7 assists a night. With a usage rate north of 32%, he dropped 59 in a game and followed it with back-to-back 50s, something no other Sun had ever done. Ayton gave them 16 and 10 as a rookie, but nobody matched Booker's consistency or playmaking. TJ Warren and Josh Jackson contributed here and there, but they weren't difference makers. The team scored at a near elite rate when Booker was on the floor and looked lost when he sat. He wasn't just scoring, he created for everyone, ran the offense, and kept them in games they had no business being in. The Suns won just 19 games, but Booker set records and carried them through all of it. That year, he was the whole show. Tracy McGrady. In the 2003 season, he averaged over 32 points, nearly 7 rebounds, and 5.5 assists, while playing nearly 40 minutes a night. He led the league in scoring and broke franchise records for total points, field goal attempts, free throws, and minutes. No teammate came close. Mike Miller gave them 16 points in limited games. Grant Hill played fewer than 30 times. Drew Gooden was a rookie, and while promising, he wasn't carrying anything. Pat Garrity and Darrell Armstrong chipped in around 10, but that was it. McGrady was the offense. In the playoffs, he still averaged over 31, but the Magic blew a 3-1 lead to Detroit because nobody could help close it. He was first in scoring, first in touches, and first in shouldering frustration. That season, McGrady didn't just lead, he had to drag the whole team. Kevin Garnett, Minnesota leaned on him like a broken crutch for years. He didn't just play every role, they needed him to be the role. During that 2003 to 2004 season, he averaged over 24 points and nearly 14 boards, and led in basically every other category too. Even when they added guys like Sprewell and Cassell, Garnett still carried most of the load. His fingerprints were on every possession. 20% or more of the team's points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. That's not carrying, that's full-on babysitting. He was locking up opponents, dropping dimes, cleaning the glass, and getting buckets. The Timberwolves hit their peak with him, but it was like watching one guy push a freight train uphill. Every playoff exit just meant more stat lines he had to fill by himself. They didn't run with him, they ran because of him. The roster shuffled. Players came and went, but Garnett never let the engine stall. When it comes to one-man teams, he wasn't just a solo act, he was the whole concert. Zach LaVine. That 2021 season was just him with a basketball and a rotating cast of extras. He dropped over 27 a night, shot above 50% from the field and over 40 from deep, and was basically the Bulls' GPS. Every possession screamed, "Zach, do something." He was an all-star for the first time, and not a single teammate was close to matching that kind of production. Laurie? Spotty. Kobe White? Erratic. Vooch showed up late, but the impact wasn't instant. The team's wins and losses swung with LaVine's rhythm. If he was hot, they had a chance. If not, forget it. He led the Bulls in usage, scoring, and was their main creator. His defense? Not great, but they needed his offense too much to care. That 31-41 record wasn't because he came up short. It was because nobody else stepped up. Gilbert Arenas. In 2005 to 2006, he basically strapped the Wizards to his back and took them for a wild ride. He put up nearly 30 points, over 6 assists, and 2 steals a game while logging over 42 minutes a night. Nobody played more minutes than him. Not a soul. He made the All-NBA third team, got an All-Star nod after a snub, and still dropped monster games like they were casual. He once scored 60, then dropped 47 not long after. Jameson and Butler? Solid, sure, but not remotely in the same galaxy production-wise. Arenas led in usage, scoring, and had to create so much offense, it was exhausting just watching. In the playoffs, he turned it up even more, but the team still went out in 5. Without him, they had no punch. With him, they had a fighting chance every night. Julius Randle. That 2021 run was him dragging the Knicks to relevance, like he lost a bet. He averaged over 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists, while logging nearly 38 minutes a night. Nobody on that roster was close to him in impact. He made the All-Star team, won Most Improved Player, and got All-NBA honors. All deserved. The Knicks somehow landed the 4th seed behind his output, which is wild, considering the rest of the lineup. Quickly, and Barrett had flashes, sure, but nothing consistent. Burks and Payton, role guys, not co-stars. Randle handled scoring, distributing, and carried a giant usage load. He touched nearly every offensive possession. Without him, they fall apart. With him, they clawed into the playoffs. They lost in 5 to Atlanta, but let's be real. Without Randall, they're not even sniffing the postseason. That was his team, start to finish. Bradley Beal. In 2021, he wasn't just leading the Wizards, he was the Wizards. Over 31 points a game, nearly 5 boards, and more than 4 assists, while playing nearly 36 minutes each night. That's not a role, that's a life sentence. He opened the season by scoring at least 25 in 17 straight games, something no one had done in Washington since the 70s. He scored 60 once, made the All-NBA third team, and got another All-Star selection. Beal led a team that started 17th and 32 into the playoffs. That run was pure willpower. He didn't just take the last shot, he took every meaningful one. This was his team, front to back, Sharif Abdur-Rahim. In the late 90s, he was Vancouver's one-man hope against a backdrop of disappointment. Right from his rookie season, he was the top scorer, averaging nearly 19 points and grabbing almost 7 boards. That quickly jumped to 22, and then 23 per game, all while playing nearly every minute and carrying the offense. The team, barely functional. Reeves gave some support, but his health and consistency were dicey. Sam Mack and Blue Edwards chipped in, but not enough to lighten Sharif's load. Even when Mike Bibby arrived, Sharif still outshone him easily. The Grizzlies were locked in losing seasons, 14, 19, and 22 wins, but Sharif kept producing. He led in every stat that mattered. He was more than the best player. He was the only one delivering star-level play. The team revolved around him because nobody else was even close. He was the Grizzlies. David Robinson. In 1994, he didn't just carry the Spurs, he was doing the job of 3 starters and still made it look casual. Nearly 30 points a game, over 10 rebounds, nearly 5 assists, more than 3 blocks, and nearly 2 steals. That's not a stat line. That's a survival guide. He led the league in scoring, made All-NBA second team and All-Defense first team. And oh yeah, dropped 71 points in the last game. One of the few to ever hit that number. He even pulled off a quadruple-double. Rodman helped on the glass, but averaged fewer than 5 points. Everyone else was just trying not to mess up. Anderson, Ellis, and Del Negro were solid, but none pushed Robinson's impact. He played over 40 minutes a night and dragged them to 55 wins. That wasn't teamwork, that was Robinson punching in for everyone. On Davis. In 2004, the Hornets weren't so much a team as they were a supporting cast, waiting for Davis to do everything. He put up almost 23 points, over 7 assists, and led the league in steals, all while playing 40 minutes a night. That's not helping your team win, that's dragging them across the finish line. He was named to the All-NBA third team and made his second All-Star appearance, but his role went way beyond accolades. David Wesley chipped in, but Davis ran every play, defended the perimeter, and had to bail them out late in games constantly. The team finished 41-41 and still made the playoffs. That was all Davis. Andre Miller. In 2002, Cleveland basically handed him the car keys and said, good luck. He led the league in assists with nearly 11 a night, played all 82 games, and put up over 16 points a game while logging 38 minutes. He broke the team's single-season assist record and even dropped 22 dimes in one game. His scoring wasn't just occasional either. He once torched the Spurs for 37. Lamont Murray scored a hair more, but wasn't creating anything. Person, Davis, and Ilgauskas had their roles, but they were complementary at best. No one else came close to directing the offense or generating looks. When Miller played heavy minutes, especially against good teams, they actually won more often than not. That 29-53 record hides how much worse it could have been without him. Miller didn't just run the offense, he was the offense. Anton Jamison. In 2004, he came off the bench and still managed to lead a flat Wizards team in almost every meaningful way. He averaged nearly 20 points, close to 8 rebounds, and over 2 assists, all without starting a single game. He won Sixth Man of the Year, but his impact was far beyond a typical bench role. He played over 38 minutes a night. That's not relief, that's full-time labor. The Wizards were a 25-win team with no star power. Jamison was the offense. Larry Hughes and Jared Jeffries were decent, but their output didn't come close. Haywood held down the paint, but Jamison was the one doing the heavy lifting every night. The team had no structure without him on the floor. He came off the bench and still carried them like a starter who didn't trust his backups. He was the team. Michael Redd. From 2004 to 2006, he was Milwaukee's offense in human form. He averaged over 23 points in one season, then jumped to over 25 the next while logging nearly 40 minutes a game. Nobody else came close to that output. He dropped 52 once and went nuclear with 57 in another game. That's not hot shooting. That's the entire fire department. The rest of the roster, Mason gave them some scoring, Mo Williams passed the ball, and guys like Gdzuric and Zaza did some dirty work, but none were in Red's orbit. Rookie Bogut wasn't ready to carry anything yet. In the playoffs, Red still led with over 27 per game, including a 40-point outing, yet the team got bounced quickly. That's what happens when your entire offense depends on one guy's jumper falling. Red didn't just lead the Bucks, he was the Bucks. Jerry Stackhouse. In 2001, he carried Detroit's offense like it was a mattress strapped to a compact car. He averaged almost 30 points a game, played over 40 minutes a night, and led the league in total points. Nearly every possession ended with him shooting or getting fouled. He took more shots than a college kid at spring break. The next highest scorer on the team was Corliss Williamson, who played only 27 games. Everyone else, Joe Smith, Chucky Atkins, Ben Wallace, was solid in their lanes, but none took pressure off Stackhouse. Wallace dominated the boards and played elite defense, but offered nothing offensively. The Pistons finished 32-50, and it's honestly a miracle they got that far. Stackhouse was their offensive identity. No co-star, no support system, just one guy firing off jumpers while the rest of the team stood back and watched. C.J. McCollum. In 2022, once Damian Lillard was out, Portland became the CJ show, whether they liked it or not. He played over 35 minutes a night and averaged more than 20 points and 4 assists, trying to keep a sinking ship from capsizing. In games without Lillard, he bumped his numbers even higher, scoring nearly 28 a game and running the offense by default. Simons had flashes, but he wasn't ready to carry that kind of load. Powell and Covington gave effort, sure, but they weren't matching McCollum's nightly output. Josh Hart and Bledsoe joined mid-season and added to the rotation, but CJ was the engine. Portland finished with just 27 wins, their worst in nearly a decade. Every time they needed a bucket or a plan, it fell on McCollum. He didn't just lead the team, he was the team. Brook Lopez. In 2013, he turned Brooklyn's offense into a private art exhibit, mostly one-man pieces. He averaged nearly 20 points, grabbed almost 7 boards, and blocked over 2 shots a night while shooting over 50% from the field. He led the team in scoring and was their most efficient player by far. He carried the offense through post-ups and pick and rolls, and when it got close late, the ball always found him. In the playoffs, he elevated to over 22 points and 3 blocks per game, still leading the team in impact. Wallace, Blatch, and Watson filled space, but Lopez was the focal point. Brooklyn won 49 games and made the playoffs for the first time since moving, and none of that happens without Lopez. He didn't just anchor them, he was them. Ty Lawson. In 2014, he wasn't just Denver's point guard, he was the whole operating system. With Gallinari out, Lawson had to run the offense, score, defend, and probably drive the team bus. He averaged over 15 points and nearly 10 assists, setting a franchise record while playing 36 minutes a game. Nobody else on the team came close to matching that production. Fournier, Foy, and Brooks, occasional help, but Lawson was the pulse. The Nuggets missed the playoffs, but it wasn't because Lawson didn't show up, it was because no one else could keep up. He led in points, assists, steals, and usage. If the team scored, chances are he had something to do with it. He didn't just lead Denver's offense, he was the offense, every single night. Gerald Wallace. In 2010, he didn't just play for the Bobcats, he was the Bobcat. He averaged over 18 points, 10 rebounds, 2 steals, and more than a block a game while logging 41 minutes. That's not playing, that's operating as the team's power source. He led Charlotte in points, rebounds, steals, blocks, and minutes. Nobody else even sniffed those numbers. Felton and Jackson were helpful, sure, but Wallace did it all, scoring, defending, rebounding, and playing nearly the whole game every night. He became their first ever All-Star and earned all-defense first team honors. That season marked the team's first winning record at 44-38, and Wallace was the reason. His two-way play gave Charlotte any hope of competing. Without him, they're back in the lottery by Christmas. Wallace didn't share the load, he was the load, every single possession. Voot. In 2019, he didn't just lead the Magic, he was the Magic. He averaged 21 points, 11 rebounds, and over 4 assists, while shooting 36% from deep. That's a full stat buffet from the center spot. He made his first All-Star team and carried Orlando to its first playoff berth in 7 years. The offense was literally built around him. Inside-out scoring, mid-range touches, pick and pops, post play, passing out of double teams, he did it all. Gordon and Fournier were decent side dishes, but neither matched his scoring or impact. Isaac and Bamba added defense or shooting in spurts, but Vooch was the consistent thread every night. He led the team in nearly every major category and kept the Magic competitive enough to finish 42-40 and win the division. They got bounced in 5 games, but without him, they aren't sniffing the postseason. He ran that team. Ben Gordon. In 2007, he played every game and led the Bulls in scoring, averaging over 21 points, while also dishing out nearly 4 assists in just 33 minutes a night. Nobody else hit the 20-point mark. Dang was close. Henrik helped out, but Gordon was the only guy consistently putting pressure on defenses. He dropped a career-high 48 points in a win over Milwaukee, and then followed that with a dominant playoff performance, leading the sweep of the defending champs from Miami. The offense flowed through him. End of story. Wallace and P.J. Brown gave them rebounding and interior grit, but the scoring came from Gordon's hand. Every big shot, every late push, every offensive spark went through him. He was the closer, the scorer, the momentum builder. The Bulls had a solid team, but make no mistake, Gordon ran the offense and carried the big moments. Chris came in 2010. With Blake Griffin out for the season, Chris became the reluctant centerpiece of a broken puzzle. He averaged over 20 points and 9 boards a night while logging 36 minutes. The offense fed him constantly: post-ups, elbow touches, pick and rolls. He didn't just lead the team in scoring and rebounding, he was the only reason they weren't totally irrelevant. Baron Davis and Eric Gordon had moments, but nothing consistent. Camby chipped in some rebounding, but didn't threaten the scoreboard. Chris, on the other hand, was dropping 25 to 30 with regularity. He made his first All-Star team, not because the Clippers were good, but because he was doing everything. The team finished 29-53, but he kept them competitive in stretches. Every night, he was the load-bearing beam on a crumbling structure. No Griffin, no backup plan, just Chris. All game, all season. Josh Smith. In 2011, he was Atlanta's Swiss Army knife with anger issues, doing everything at once, every game. He averaged over 16 points, grabbed nearly 9 boards, dished assists, and blocked almost 2 shots per night. He played 34 minutes a game, often more when things got dicey. Smith didn't just show up, he filled the stat sheet like he had something to prove. His shooting improved too, stretching the floor just enough to make defenses think twice. When the team needed stops, dunks, or momentum swings, it was him. Atlanta won 44 games and reached the second round, but no one gave them that punch on both ends like Smith did. He wasn't just active, he was the activity. Moses Malone. Moses Malone went straight from high school to professional basketball in 1974, becoming the first modern player to skip college entirely and join the Utah Stars of the ABA. That decision alone changed the sport forever. When the ABA merged with the NBA in 1976, Malone hadn't just survived the transition, he'd already established himself as one of the best young rebounders on the planet. He went on to play 21 professional seasons total, 19 of them in the NBA. 3 times he won the Most Valuable Player award in 1979, 1982, and 1983, putting him in the same tier as Kareem, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Nikola Jokic. He finished with over 29,000 career points and over 17,800 career rebounds, ranking top 10 all-time in both categories. During the 1981 to 82 season with the Houston Rockets, he averaged 31.1 points and 14.7 rebounds per game, becoming the first player since Kareem to average over 30 points and 14 rebounds in a season. Then in 1982 to 83, he joined the Philadelphia 76ers and famously predicted his team would go foe, sweeping every playoff series. They went 12-1 in the postseason instead, and Malone averaged 26 points and 15.8 rebounds in the finals against the Los Angeles Lakers to win finals. Most Valuable Player. He also grabbed 7,382 offensive rebounds, the most in NBA history by a massive margin. 13 All-Star appearances, 8 All-NBA selections, 6 rebounding titles, Hall of Fame, 50th and 75th anniversary teams. That's the resume of one of the greatest to ever do it, Tony Parker. Tony Parker was the 28th pick in the 2001 NBA draft, and that's almost laughable in hindsight. He spent 17 seasons with the San Antonio Spurs and became the engine of one of the most successful dynasties in league history. 4 championships, 6 All-Star appearances, 4 All-NBA selection, a Hall of Fame induction in 2023, and most importantly, the 2007 Finals Most Valuable Player award, which made him the first European-born player to ever win that honor. He averaged 24.5 points per game in that Finals against the Cleveland Cavaliers at just 25 years old. His signature teardrop floater became one of the most copied shots in basketball, and his finishing ability around the rim was elite for a point guard. In 2011-12, Parker averaged 18.3 points and 7.7 assists. In 2012-13, he bumped that to 20.3 points and 7.6 assists, while finishing 5th in Most Valuable Player voting. That same year, He hit a massive shot over LeBron James in Game 1 of the Finals. He finished his NBA career with over 19,000 points and over 7,000 assists, a combination only a small number of guards in history have reached. He's also the all-time leader in both playoff points and playoff assists in Spurs franchise history across 226 postseason games. Internationally, Parker led France to the 2013 Eurobasket gold medal and won Tournament Most Valuable Player. He's been overlooked, partly because Tim Duncan and Manu shared that dynasty spotlight, but Parker's individual resume stands completely on its own. Alex English. Alex English was a second-round pick in the 1976 NBA draft, and from 1980 through 1989, he scored more points than anyone else in the entire league. More than Larry Bird, more than Magic Johnson, more than Michael Jordan, more than Kareem. 21,018 points in a single decade, and somehow, he's still not a household name. English averaged at least 25 points per game in 8 consecutive seasons. He won the scoring title in 1982 to 83 with 28.4 points per game. He led the Denver Nuggets to 9 straight playoff appearances from 1981 through 1990. He finished as Denver's all-time leading scorer with 21,645 franchise points, and he ended his career with 25,613 total points, one of the highest totals in league history at the time of his retirement. His efficiency was remarkable too. Despite being a perimeter-oriented forward, English frequently shot above 50% from the field. His game wasn't about highlight dunks or physical dominance. It was built on mid-range jumpers, baseline cuts, finger rolls, and off-ball movement. In 1984 to 85 alone, he averaged 27.9 points, 6.3 rebounds, and 4.7 assists. He earned 3 All-NBA selections and a Hall of Fame induction in 1997. He was never on the NBA 75th anniversary team, which is genuinely hard to explain, given he outscored every player in the entire league across the whole decade of the 1980s. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Walt Frazier. Walt Frazier was drafted 5th overall by the New York Knicks in 1967 and immediately became the defensive heartbeat of the franchise. He earned all-defensive first-team honors in each of the award's first 7 seasons, which tells you everything you need to know about how dominant he was on that end. He also led the only 2 championship teams in Knicks history, winning titles in 1970 and 1973. In Game 7 of the 1970 Finals against the Los Angeles Lakers, Frazier delivered one of the greatest point guard performances in finals history: 36 points, 19 assists, 7 rebounds, shooting 12 for 17 from the field and 12 for 12 from the free throw line. That performance has barely faded from the record books decades later. For his career, Frazier averaged 18.9 points, 6.1 assists, and 5.9 rebounds per game, while finishing with 15,581 career points and 5,040 assists. Those numbers came in an era with no three-point line and heavy hand-checking, meaning efficiency was harder to maintain. He made 7 All-Star teams, earned 4 All-NBA first-team selections, and was named to both the 50th and 75th anniversary teams. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1987 and had his number 10 retired by the Knicks. Frazier built his reputation through steals, before steals were even officially tracked. He's often remembered more for his broadcasting style and fashion than his actual dominance, but he was the best player on one championship team and the co-best player on another. Joe Dumars. Joe Dumars was selected 18th overall in the 1985 NBA draft and spent his entire 14-year career with the Detroit Pistons. No free agency jumps, no team hopping, just 14 straight seasons of being one of the best two-way guards in basketball. He won back-to-back championships in 1989 and 1990. In the 1989 finals against the Los Angeles Lakers, he averaged 27.3 points per game while shooting over 57% from the field and won finals most valuable player over his own teammate, Isaiah Thomas. He averaged over 20 points per game in 5 different seasons. He earned 4 all-defensive first-team selections and was one of the few guards Michael Jordan himself praised for guarding him with integrity and skill. Dumars averaged 16.1 points and 4.5 assists for his career, finishing with 16,401 career points and 4,612 assists. He made 6 All-Star teams and 3 All-NBA third-team appearances. He won the inaugural NBA Sportsmanship Award in 1996, and the award was later officially renamed the Joe Dumars Trophy. After retiring, he became Detroit's president of basketball operations and built the 2004 championship team, also winning Executive of the Year in 2003. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2006 and had his number 4 retired. He was named to the 50th anniversary team. He's underrated because he shared a roster with bigger personalities and never sought attention. But finals, most valuable player, elite defense, and 2 rings is a combination very few shooting guards in history can match. Dave DeBusschere. Dave DeBusschere became a player, coach for the Detroit Pistons at just 24 years old, which should give you a sense of how much the league respected his maturity and understanding of the game. He was traded to the New York Knicks in December of 1968, and that trade changed everything for New York. The Knicks became contenders almost immediately after adding his rebounding and interior toughness to one of the most balanced starting lineups in league history. They won 60 games in 1969 to 70 and 57 in 1972 to 73, capturing championships in both 1970 and 1973. DeBusschere averaged 16.1 points and 11.0 rebounds per game for his career, finishing with 16,043 points and 10,424 career rebounds. He earned 8 All-Star appearances and 6 All-Defensive First-Team selections. He's on the 50th anniversary team and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1983. His number 22 is retired by the Knicks. Beyond basketball, DeBusschere also pitched for the Chicago White Sox in Major League Baseball, making him one of the rare athletes to compete at the professional level in both sports. After playing, he became commissioner of the ABA and helped oversee the merger with the NBA. His impact on the sport extended far beyond what any box score could show. He was the defensive anchor and emotional tone setter of 2 championship teams in one of the league's biggest market, and he still doesn't get nearly enough credit for it. Adrian Dantley. Adrian Dantley was selected 6th overall in the 1976 draft by the Buffalo Braves after winning Olympic gold with the United States national team that same year. He won Rookie of the Year in 1977 and never really stopped being excellent from that point forward. He won the scoring title in 1980 to 81 at 30.7 points per game, and again in 1983 to 84 at 30.6 points per game, also averaging 30.3 in 1981 to 82. That's 3 separate 30-point seasons. His career average of 24.3 points per game ranks among the highest in NBA history, and he did it while shooting 54% from the field for his career. In 1983 to 84, he averaged 30.6 points on 55.8% shooting, an almost impossible combination for a perimeter-oriented forward. He attempted 886 free throws that season and made 761 of them. He led the Utah Jazz to playoff appearances before the John Stockton and Karl Malone era even began. He finished with 23,177 career points, more than Isaiah Thomas, Scottie Pippen, Kawhi Leonard, and Tracy McGrady. He made 6 All-Star teams and earned 2 All-NBA second-team selections. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2008. He played his game through pump fakes, footwork, and elite body control, rather than flashy athleticism, which probably explains why casual fans don't talk about him the way his numbers demand. Bob McAdoo. Bob McAdoo was the 2nd overall pick in the 1972 draft by the Buffalo Braves and won Rookie of the Year in 1973. Then from 1973 to 74 through 1975 to 76, he put together one of the most dominant 3-year stretches any big man has ever produced. He averaged 30.6 points and 15.1 rebounds, then 34.5 points and 14.1 rebounds to win Most Valuable Player, then 31.1 points and 12.4 rebounds. 3 straight scoring titles, a Most Valuable Player award in 1975, 5 All-Star appearances, and those 34.5 points per game with 14.1 rebounds and 2.1 blocks in 1974 to 75 remain one of the greatest statistical seasons ever recorded by a big man. What makes his story unique is what came after the peak. McAdoo reinvented himself entirely, joining the Los Angeles Lakers and accepting a bench role behind Kareem, Magic Johnson, and James Worthy. He won championships in 1982 and 1985, After the NBA, he went to Europe and won 2 EuroLeague championships and a EuroLeague Final Four Most Valuable Player award. Very few players in basketball history can point to an NBA Most Valuable Player, multiple NBA titles, multiple scoring crowns, and major European championships, all on the same resume. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2000 and was named to the 75th anniversary team. His peak numbers compare with any legend the sport has ever produced. Rick Barry. Rick Barry was the second overall pick in the 1965 draft by the San Francisco Warriors and immediately became one of the most complete players in the game. In 1966-67, he led the NBA in scoring with 35.6 points per game while also averaging 9.2 rebounds and 3.6 assists. That same season, he led San Francisco to the NBA Finals. He later joined the ABA and won the scoring title there in 1968-69, proving he could dominate in both leagues. His greatest moment came in 1975 when he led the Golden State Warriors to a championship over the heavily favored Washington Bullets, sweeping them in the finals while averaging 29.5 points per game and winning Finals Most Valuable Player. The 1975 Warriors had no other first-team All-NBA stars, making it one of the most impressive solo-led title runs in league history. That same season, Barry averaged 30.6 points, 6.2 rebounds, 6.2 assists, and 2.9 steals, also leading the league in steals. He finished with 24,192 NBA points at 24.8 per game and over 25,000 combined professional points across both leagues. He's also one of the most accurate free throw shooters in history, shooting approximately 90% for his career, using his famous underhand technique. Barry earned 12 All-Star selections across both leagues, a Hall of Fame induction in 1987, and a spot on the 75th anniversary team. His split career across 2 leagues likely cost him the broader recognition he deserved. Dave Cowan. Dave Cowens was the 4th overall pick in the 1970 draft by the Boston Celtics and won the Most Valuable Player award in 1972-73, averaging 20.5 points, 16.2 rebounds, and 4.1 assists across all 82 games while leading Boston to 68 wins, a record at the time. He won that award over Kareem. He won 2 championships with the Celtics in 1974 and 1976. In the 1974 finals against Milwaukee, he averaged 20.6 points and 12.0 rebounds as Boston won in 7 games, with Game 6 going to double overtime. He made 8 All-Star teams, earned 3 All-NBA first-team selections, 3 All-Defensive first-team selections, and was named to both the 50th and 75th anniversary teams. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1991 and had his number 18 retired. For his career, Cowens averaged 17.6 points, 14.0 rebounds, and 3.8 assists, finishing with 17,004 points, 13,516 rebounds, and 3,239 assists. What separated him was his versatility. At 6 feet 9 inches, he regularly brought the ball up the floor, passed at a high level, defended multiple positions, and ran the floor in transition. He also served as player coach during the 1978-79 season and famously left the team during 1979-80 to work as a taxi driver before returning later that year. He was overshadowed by the era's more famous centers, but his resume is as strong as almost anyone at the position. Bob Pettit. Bob Pettit was the 2nd overall pick in the 1954 draft and played his entire career with the Milwaukee and St. Louis Hawks. He won 2 Most Valuable Player awards in 1955-56 and 1958-59. He made 11 All-Star teams, won 10 All-NBA first-team selection, and was named to the 25th, 35th, 50th, and 75th anniversary teams. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1970. He retired as the NBA's all-time leading scorer and was the first player in league history to score more than 20,000 points. He was also the first player to average at least 20 points and 10 rebounds for an entire career. His career averages of 26.4 points and 16.2 rebounds per game are historically elite numbers at any position. In 1958, he led the St. Louis Hawks to the only championship in franchise history by defeating Bill Russell and the Boston Celtics. In Game 6, he scored 50 points, recording 19 field goals and 12 free throws to clinch the title. That remains one of the greatest finals performances ever. He averaged at least 24 points in every single season and at least 12 rebounds in every season. He competed directly against Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and Elgin Baylor, and was considered the premier power forward of his era. His numbers hold up against any player who ever played the position, yet limited footage and the passage of time have caused many modern fans to underestimate just how dominant he was. Wes Unseld. Wes Unseld was the second overall pick in the 1968 draft, and in his very first season did something only Wilt Chamberlain and Willis Reed had ever done, winning both Most Valuable Player and Rookie of the Year in the same year. As a rookie, he averaged 13.8 points and 18.2 rebounds, and single-handedly lifted the Baltimore Bullets from 36 wins to 57 wins, a 21-win improvement in one season. For his career, he averaged 10.8 points, 14.0 rebounds, and 3.9 assists, finishing with 10,624 points, 13,769 rebounds, and 3,822 assists. He was listed at 6 feet 7 inches and was often the shortest starting center in the league, yet he dominated the glass through extraordinary strength and elite positioning. His signature skill was the outlet pass. After securing a defensive rebound, Unseld would fire full court passes to trigger fast breaks instantly, creating easy offense without a dribble. That style influenced future centers, including Bill Walton and Nikola Jokic. In 1978, he led the Washington Bullets to the franchise's only NBA championship, defeating the Seattle Supersonics in 7 games. He averaged 9.4 points, 11.7 rebounds, and 3.9 assists in that finals, and won Finals Most Valuable Player. He made 5 All-Star teams, earned 1 All-NBA first-team selection, and was named to both the 50th and 75th anniversary teams. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1988 and had his number 41 retired. His contributions were almost always subtle, but the wins were never subtle at all. Kevin Johnson. Kevin Johnson was the 7th overall pick in the 1987 draft by the Cleveland Cavaliers and was traded to the Phoenix Suns in 1988 in a deal involving Larry Nance. That trade completely transformed Phoenix. Johnson became one of the first guards in league history to average at least 20 points and 12 assists per game in back-to-back seasons, doing it in 1988 to 89 with 20.4 points and 12.2 assists on 50.5% shooting, and again in 1989 to 90 with 22.5 points and 11.4 assists on 49.9% shooting. In that second season, he finished 5th in Most Valuable Player voting. For his career, he averaged 18.7 points and 9.1 assists per game on 49.3% shooting, finishing with 17,529 career points and 9,214 assists. He helped lead the Suns to 62 wins in 1992 to 93 and into the finals against the Chicago Bulls, where he averaged 17.2 points and 7.8 assists across the series. He was a 3-time All-Star and 5-time All-NBA selection and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2021. He also won Olympic gold in 1994 with the United States national team at the FIBA World Championship. Johnson's first step was one of the quickest in the game, and he was famous for finishing over much larger defenders, including Hakeem, in the 1994 playoffs. Injuries limited his longevity, and playing in Phoenix before the internet era cost him national recognition. But at his absolute peak, he was one of the most dominant offensive point guards in the entire sport. Pau Gasol. Pau Gasol was the 3rd overall pick in the 2001 draft, selected by Atlanta and immediately traded to Memphis. He became the first foreign-born player to win NBA Rookie of the Year, and then quietly built one of the most complete resumes in modern big man history. He led Memphis to 3 consecutive playoff appearances from 2004 through 2006, the franchise's first playoff trips ever. In February 2008, he was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers, and what happened next was immediate. The Lakers made the finals in 2008, won the championship in 2009, and won again in 2010. In the 2009 finals against Orlando, Pau averaged 18.6 points, 9.2 rebounds, and 2.0 blocks. In the 2010 finals against Boston, he averaged 18.6 points and 11.6 rebounds, including 19 points and 18 rebounds in a decisive Game 7, one of the defining performances of that entire era. He made 4 consecutive All-Star teams from 2009 through 2012 and earned 4 All-NBA selections. At age 34, with the Chicago Bulls in 2014-15, he still averaged 18.5 points, 11.8 rebounds, and 1.9 blocks, while earning All-NBA second-team honors. He finished with 20,894 points, 11,305 rebounds, 3,925 assists, and 1,941 blocks. Internationally with Spain, he won 1 FIBA World Cup gold, 3 Eurobasket golds, and was named 2006 FIBA World Cup Most Valuable Player. He and his brother Mark are the first brothers to both win NBA championships. Inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2023, Grant Hill. Grant Hill was the 3rd overall pick in the 1994 draft by Detroit after leading Duke University to 2 National Collegiate Athletic Association championships. He shared Rookie of the Year in 1995 with Jason Kidd and immediately became one of the most complete players in the league. From 1994 to 95 through 1999 to 2000, he averaged 21.6 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 6.3 assists per game across his first 6 seasons. In 1996 to 97, that looked like 21.4 points, 9.0 rebounds, and 7.3 assists. In 1999 to 2000, it was 25.8 points, 6.6 rebounds, and 5.2 assists, while finishing 3rd in Most Valuable Player voting. He led all players in All-Star fan voting in 1997, 1998, 1999, and 2000 during the peak of Michael Jordan's era. His combination of ball handling, passing, rebounding, mid-range scoring, and transition play drew frequent comparisons to Scottie Pippen and Magic Johnson. In 2000, he signed with the Orlando Magic, and severe ankle injuries immediately derailed what looked like an all-time trajectory. From 2000 through 2007, he missed huge portions of multiple seasons and underwent several surgeries, but Hill refused to stop playing. He reinvented himself as a veteran contributor with the Phoenix Suns and later the Los Angeles Clippers, ultimately completing 19 NBA seasons and more than 1,000 regular season games. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2018 and earned 7 All-Star selections and 5 All-NBA picks. His peak before the injuries was genuinely comparable to the greatest all-around forwards the sport has ever seen, Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups was the 3rd overall pick in the 1997 draft and spent the early part of his career bouncing between the Boston Celtics, Toronto Raptors, Denver Nuggets, and Minnesota Timberwolves before finding his home in Detroit. Once he got there, everything clicked. In 2004, the Pistons defeated a Los Angeles Lakers team featuring Shaq, Kobe Bryant, Karl Malone, and Gary Payton, one of the most talented rosters ever assembled. Billups averaged 21.0 points and 5.2 assists in that finals, while shooting 50.9% from the field, 47.1% from 3, and 92.9% from the free throw line, including a 38-point performance in Game 3. He won Finals Most Valuable Player. From 2003 through 2009, Billups reached 7 straight conference finals, first with Detroit through 2008 and then with Denver in 2009. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2024 and had his number 1 retired by the Pistons. He made 5 All-Star teams and earned 3 All-NBA selections and 2 All-Defensive second-team nods. He won Olympic gold with Team USA in 2010. His career totals include 15,802 points, 5,636 assists, a 38.7% three-point rate, and an 89.4% free throw percentage, which was 6th highest in NBA history at the time of his retirement. He never averaged 20 points per game in a season, but he won when it mattered most, repeatedly, for over a decade. Artis Gilmore. Artis Gilmore was the 1st overall pick in the 1971 ABA draft and retired as one of the most statistically dominant centers in the history of professional basketball. He ended his NBA career with a 59.9% field goal percentage, which stood as the all-time record for years. His combined ABA and NBA totals include 24,941 points, 16,330 rebounds, and 2,747 NBA blocks alone. As a rookie in 1971 to 72, He won both ABA Most Valuable Player and Rookie of the Year after averaging 23.8 points, 17.8 rebounds, and 5.0 assists per game. In 1975, he led the Kentucky Colonels to the ABA championship, averaging 28.0 points and 18.0 rebounds in the finals against the Indiana Pacers. Before any of that, he took Jacksonville University, a small school program, all the way to the 1970 National Collegiate Athletic Association Championship game, where they faced Sidney Wicks and the UCLA Bruins. He was 7 feet 2 inches tall with a massive wingspan, an elite shot blocker, and one of the most durable and efficient scorers in the sport. He earned 11 total All-Star selections across both leagues, 6 of them in the NBA. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2011 because so much of his prime came in the ABA, which often gets dismissed historically. Gilmore never got the same recognition as the centers who played exclusively in the NBA, which is a significant oversight given his numbers. Elvin Hayes. Elvin Hayes was the first overall pick in the 1968 draft by the San Diego Rockets. Before he ever played a professional game, he was already legendary. In 1968, at the University of Houston, he outplayed Lou Altendorf, who later became Kareem, in the nationally televised Game of the Century, scoring 39 points and grabbing 15 rebounds in an upset over the top-ranked UCLA Bruins. That game is still one of the most watched college basketball broadcasts in history. His NBA career was just as remarkable. He finished with 27,313 career points and 16,279 career rebounds, retiring third in the league's history in both categories. He averaged 21.0 points and 12.5 rebounds per game. He won the scoring title as a rookie in 1968-69 with 28.4 points per game. He averaged at least 20 points in 12 different seasons and at least 10 rebounds in 15 seasons. He played in 1,303 regular season games and missed only 9 total over 16 seasons, playing 82 games in 12 different campaigns. In 1978, he and Wes Unseld formed a Hall of Fame frontcourt that led Washington to the franchise's only NBA championship, defeating the Seattle Supersonics in 7 games. He made 12 All-Star teams, earned 6 All-NBA first-team selections, and 3 All-Defensive first-team nods. He was named to the 50th and 75th anniversary teams and inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1990. Both the Houston Rockets and Washington Wizards retired his number. His production across every statistical category places him among the greatest forwards ever. Hal Greer. Hal Greer was drafted by the Syracuse Nationals in 1958 and became the face of the franchise when it relocated to Philadelphia in 1963, transforming into the 76ers. He went on to become the franchise's all-time leading scorer for decades, finishing his career with 21,586 career points at 19.2 per game, along with 5,089 assists. From 1961 to 62 through 1969 to 70, he averaged at least 20 points per game in 8 of 9 seasons. His signature jump shot and one-handed set shot were among the most effective perimeter weapons of his era. In 1966 to 67, he helped build one of the most dominant teams ever assembled. That Philadelphia squad won 68 regular season games and ended the Boston Celtics' 8-year championship streak. They then defeated the San Francisco Warriors in the finals, with Greer averaging over 26 points per game throughout. Greer also held the NBA record for consecutive games played at 540, demonstrating the kind of durability that's almost impossible to replicate. He made 10 All-Star teams and earned 7 All-NBA selections. He won the 1967 championship and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1982. He was named to both the 50th and 75th anniversary teams. He's often overshadowed by Wilt Chamberlain, who was his teammate in Philadelphia, but Greer was an elite guard completely in his own right and deserves to be mentioned among the greatest shooting guards in basketball history. Gus Williams. Gus Williams was selected 20th overall in the 1975 draft by the Golden State Warriors and won a championship in his rookie season, though in a reserve role. His real prime came with the Seattle Supersonics, where he became one of the fastest and most explosive guards in the game and earned the nickname The Wizard. In 1978 to 79, he averaged 23.4 points, 6.0 assists, and 2.2 steals, and led Seattle to the NBA championship. In the 1979 finals against the Washington Bullets, he averaged approximately 29 points per game as the leading scorer and primary offensive creator on the title team. Seattle had also reached the finals the year before in 1978 and came within one game of winning it. From 1977 to 78 through 1983 to 84, Williams averaged at least 18 points in every season he played, and in 1981 to 82, he reached a career high of 23.4 points per game again. He missed the entire 1980 to 81 season because of a contract dispute, costing him a full year during his absolute prime. Even with that lost season, he still finished with 17,949 career points and 5,421 assists. He made 2 All-Star teams, earned 2 All-NBA selections, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2021. He's underrated because he played in Seattle before that market had the national profile it deserved. And losing a full season erased him from some of the recognition he'd built. Maurice Cheeks. Maurice Cheeks was the 36th overall pick in the 1978 draft, selected by the Philadelphia 76ers out of West Texas State University. That draft position doesn't match what he became. He was the starting point guard on the 1982 to 83 76ers team that went 12-1 in the playoffs and won the NBA championship, orchestrating an offense that featured Moses Malone, Julius Erving, Andrew Toney, and Bobby Jones. In the 1983 finals against the Los Angeles Lakers, he scored in double digits and controlled the pace of the entire series. He finished his career with 7,392 assists and 2,310 steals, ranking among the all-time leaders at the time of his retirement. He earned 5 All-Defensive First-Team selections, made 4 All-Star teams, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2018. In 1986 to 87, he averaged 11.5 assists per game, a career high. He also shot over 50% from the field in multiple seasons, despite being a guard, which reflects elite efficiency for his position. He regularly averaged around 13 to 16 points, 7 to 8 assists, and more than 2 steals per game during his prime. He later contributed as a veteran leader for the San Antonio Spurs and New York Knicks. He's underrated because he wasn't a high-volume scorer and because the teammates around him on that 76ers team were more famous. But as the floor general of one of the greatest championship squads ever and one of the best defensive point guards the league has ever seen, his legacy is stronger than most fans realize. Level 1. Surface talk. Frozen envelope. The theory goes like this. Back in 1985, the NBA needed a boost. It was the first time they were using a draft lottery, and Patrick Ewing was the prize, a star out of Georgetown, expected to transform any franchise. And of all the possible outcomes, the New York Knicks just happened to get the first pick. That's where things get interesting. The theory claims that one of the envelopes in the clear drum was either frozen or bent, something to make it stand out. That way, when Commissioner David Stern reached in, he'd know exactly which one to grab. And of course, he pulled out the envelope with the Knicks logo. Some say the envelope was chilled beforehand, so it'd feel different. Others believe it was slammed into the side of the drum to crease the corner, a visual or tactile clue. The drum was see-through, which adds even more fuel to the theory. You could have spotted a bent corner or a subtle mark. And if you're a commissioner with a rooting interest, well, let's just say it wouldn't hurt. The NBA's motive? Pretty straightforward. New York was the biggest market. Putting a generational player like Ewing in that city would have boosted ratings, brought in more revenue, and helped the league grow. It was a business decision wrapped in a basketball moment. Even the accounting firm involved supposedly had ties to the Knicks ownership. And Stern, lifelong Knicks fan. Every piece just fit a little too neatly. The moment the envelope was opened and the Knicks won the pick, it wasn't just luck to some people. It was orchestration. The frozen envelope theory still hangs around like cold air from a cracked freezer door. Rigged Western Final. The theory says the 2002 Western Conference Finals between the Kings and Lakers wasn't just competitive, it was orchestrated. Sacramento had the best record that season and was rolling. But the Lakers, the defending champs, were the league's money team. The spotlight loved them. And according to the theory, so did the refs. Game 6 is the epicenter. The Lakers shot 40 free throws, with 27 of those in the fourth quarter alone. That stat gets repeated over and over. Meanwhile, Sacramento's bigs couldn't stay on the floor. Divac, Weber, Pollard, and Funderburk all racked up fouls. Some even fouled out. The game tilted, and fans noticed. Commentators like Michael Wilbon called out the calls, all against the King, all in crunch time. Then there's former ref Tim Donaghy. His lawyer submitted a letter saying 2 refs extended the series on purpose. Why? because pushing it to Game 7 kept the drama alive, which helped the league. The officials were described as loyal to the NBA's interest, and the league wanted the Lakers on the biggest stage. The Kings had the momentum. They were at home, but late calls disrupted everything. The Lakers closed strong, took Game 6, and forced Game 7, which they won in overtime. The theory says this outcome wasn't chance, it was business. It leans on market size. The Lakers were a draw. The Kings, not so much. The NBA's ratings and reach were on the line, and Los Angeles made sense as the finals pick. The refs in Game 6, including Dick Bavetta, had long tenures, and their involvement added more heat to the fire. The Lakers moved on. The Kings didn't. The theory never cooled off. 2009, draft lottery. The theory claims the 2008 draft lottery was rigged so the Bulls could land the #1 pick and grab Derrick Rose, a hometown phenom with star power. Chicago had just a 1.7% shot, yet somehow they won it. That insanely low chance is what drives the theory. Out of all the teams, the Bulls had barely any statistical hope, but the result? A top-tier talent, born and raised in Chicago, suddenly landing with the struggling Bulls. It was almost too perfect. The narrative writes itself. A Chicago native becomes the face of the Bulls just when they needed a reboot after the post-Jordan slump. From a league perspective, it gave them a big market franchise, gaining new life with a fan favorite. The theory says that's exactly the type of outcome the league would want to guide. In Rose's case, the theory holds that the league put a future MVP in a major city for maximum impact. At the time, Chicago needed a star, and Rose fit that role flawlessly. His high school roots, his local buzz, it all fed into the belief that this was more than just ping pong balls bouncing around. The league got its storyline. Chicago got its hero. The odds were tiny, but the outcome was massive. And to this day, plenty of fans believe that ball never bounced on its own. 2006 Finals rigged. The theory says the 2006 NBA Finals weren't just dramatic, they were fixed. Dallas had the better record, won the first 2 games, and looked like the favorite. Then, out of nowhere, Miami rattled off 4 straight wins. That's where things get suspicious. Game 5 is the flashpoint. Miami shot 49 free throws. Dallas, just 25. Wade alone made 21 free throws. A finals record. That's nearly as many as the entire Mavericks roster. Game 6, Miami had 37 attempts. Dallas had 23. The foul disparity stuck out like a sore thumb. And the theory says it was the main tool used to swing the outcome. Then there were the questionable calls. In Game 5's overtime, Wade caught an inbounds pass while moving into the backcourt. Mavericks owner Mark Cuban claimed it should have been a violation. Seconds later, Dallas tried to call a timeout and got charged their final one, apparently because of a misread gesture. Both calls added fuel to the theory. The motive? Business. The league had a rising star in Wade and a market in Miami that offered way more narrative juice than a Mavericks sweep. Letting Dallas dominate wouldn't have the same ratings appeal, according to the theory. Cuban didn't hold back. He said the title was stolen, and former referee Tim Donaghy backed him, claiming the officiating had league-friendly intent. The Mavericks' frustration was visible, and Cuban ended up getting fined. The theory says the league needed a longer series, a bigger story, and a star-making stage. Wade's parade to the line, the key calls, and the sudden momentum shift all play into that idea. Dallas had control, but the theory says Miami had the lead. Wilt's 100-point game. The theory says it never actually happened. Not the points, not the historic moment, not the legendary photo. It all comes down to one bold idea, that the most iconic record in NBA history was either exaggerated or staged. First, there's no video. None. The game wasn't televised, and there's no known footage of the full game. Just a partial fourth quarter radio recording. For a game where one player supposedly dropped 100 points, the total lack of visual proof fuels the doubt. Then there's the setting. Hershey, Pennsylvania. Not exactly a mecca for pro basketball. A minor venue, a crowd of about 4,000, and a matchup that didn't scream historic night. It was a small market game in a small market arena, and that makes the whole thing feel strangely underwhelming for such a massive achievement. The numbers don't help. Chamberlain was a terrible free throw shooter across his career, yet that night, he hit 28 of 32. The Warriors and Knicks combined for over 300 points, which was wild for that time. The theory says the stats just don't line up with what was typical. Even the box score gets questioned. The radio broadcast gave a different final score than what's officially listed. Some players couldn't agree on what happened in the final second. And that famous 100 sign, supposedly handwritten by the team's PR guy after the game, not exactly hard evidence. The theory argues that in a time before cameras were everywhere, the league had every reason to build a legend. An unbelievable record, no full footage, and a moment captured by a paper sign. To believers, It's the biggest story that never happened. Level 2. Casual deep cut. Jordan's secret suspension. The theory claims Michael Jordan didn't retire in 1993. He was secretly suspended by the NBA. The reason? Gambling. Not just casual bets, but high-stakes wagers on golf, cards, and who knows what else. The league, according to the theory, couldn't risk its golden image being tainted by scandal. So they made a deal. Jordan walked away at the top. 3 straight titles, still dominate. Then out of nowhere, he retires and joins a minor league baseball team. The theory says this wasn't a passion project. It was a quiet exile, a suspension in disguise. It just happened to follow closely after his father's tragic murder, which the theory says gave perfect emotional cover. The language from Jordan himself adds intrigue. He once said, "If David Stern lets me back in the league," that phrasing fuels speculation. Why would the best player alive need permission to return unless someone told him to leave? His baseball run didn't light up the world. He hit just over 200 with the Birmingham Barons, but it kept him away long enough. The timeline, the theory says, fits too well. He left right after the 3rd title, stayed away just long enough to look like a break, then returned in 1995, famously announcing, "I'm back." With the NBA's reputation at stake, the theory holds that keeping Jordan's issues quiet was in everyone's best interest. The league preserved its image, Jordan avoided public backlash, and fans were left with a mysterious gap in one of the greatest careers ever, Chris Paul veto. The theory centers on December 2011, when a blockbuster trade that would have sent Chris Paul to the Lakers was shut down, not by a team, but by the league itself. Paul, an all-star with the New Orleans Hornets, had already made it clear he wanted out. The Lakers, Rockets, and Hornets agreed on a 3-team deal, and it was ready to go, but the NBA said no. The Hornets were owned by the NBA at the time, and Commissioner David Stern was acting as their boss. When the trade was submitted, Stern stepped in and blocked it, claiming basketball reasons. That phrase has lived in infamy ever since. The theory says it wasn't just about roster balance, it was about control. The original deal would have sent Paul to the Lakers, Pau to the Rockets, and players like Lamar Odom, Kevin Martin, Louis Scola, Goran Dragic, and a pick to the Hornets. But the league felt that return didn't hold enough value for a team they were actively trying to sell. Keeping the Hornets marketable was a top priority, and this trade didn't fit. There was also pressure from other owners. The idea of the Lakers pairing Paul with Kobe Bryant caused concern. The theory says competitive balance fears, mixed with the league's control of the Hornets, led to the veto. 6 days later, Paul was traded to the Clippers instead for Eric Gordon, Chris Kaman, Al-Farouq Aminu, and a pick. That one was approved. The result? The Lakers missed their target. The Clippers rose to relevant, and the veto became a defining moment where league power overruled front office deal. To this day, it's a rare moment in NBA history where a superstar trade was shut down from the top. Heat Big Three, prearranged. The theory claims LeBron James, D. Wade, and Chris Bosh didn't just decide to team up in 2010. The whole thing was set up in advance. According to this theory, the NBA, the Miami Heat, and the players all played a role in building the league's next powerhouse before the public even knew it was possible. All 3 stars hit free agency at the same time. That alone set off alarms. The theory says the synchronized contracts and shared timing weren't a coincidence. They were groundwork. Miami had the cap space lined up, while most teams didn't. The theory holds that the Heat front office planned years ahead, clearing room and quietly lining up conversations behind closed doors. Wade himself has admitted the 3 had early talks about playing together. He said they discussed it and left open the possibility. But the theory pushes that further, claiming these weren't casual conversations. It was a blueprint, with league approval or at least passive allowance. The NBA had plenty to gain, a super team in a warm, media-friendly city with international stars. It gave the league a ratings spike and a new villain narrative that dominated coverage. The Heat instantly became a TV draw. The theory suggests that kind of outcome was too good to leave to chance. The phrase Big Three became a brand overnight. Other teams followed the same pattern, and the Heat made 4 straight finals. The theory says it wasn't magic, it was marketing, wrapped in talent and time to perfection. All 3 stars, 1 team, 1 market, all too clean, all too convenient. To believers, this wasn't a free agency win, it was a setup. Sonics move pre-planned. The theory says the Seattle Supersonics' relocation to Oklahoma City wasn't an unfortunate fallout. It was the plan all along. When Clay Bennett's group bought the team in 2006, they publicly agreed to try keeping it in Seattle. But according to the theory, they were already packing boxes. Aubrey McClendon, one of Bennett's partners, told a local paper in 2007 that they bought the team to move it. That quote cost him a $250,000 fine from the NBA, but it also gave fuel to the theory that the move was never in doubt. Then there's the arena strategy. After buying the team, Bennett's group proposed a $500 million arena in Renton. That failed. Right after, they started pushing for relocation. Meanwhile, Oklahoma City was already prepping. Voters approved $120 million in Ford Center upgrades. While the team still technically belonged to Seattle, it didn't stop there. In September 2007, Bennett tried to break the Key Arena lease, which ran through 2010. 2 months later, he told the NBA he wanted to move as soon as legally possible. And in Seattle's lawsuit, emails emerged. Internal messages from Bennett's group allegedly showed they never intended to stay. The theory says the good faith clause in the sale was just a formality. By April 2008, the NBA approved the move. The team paid $45 million to exit early. Seattle lost its franchise. Oklahoma City gained the Thunder. The theory holds that this wasn't relocation. It was a calculated extraction. From day one, they knew where the team was going. Seattle just didn't know it yet. Cavs gifted Andrew Wiggins. Cleveland had just a 1.7% chance of winning the top pick in the 2014 draft. Somehow, that tiny sliver of hope turned into Andrew Wiggins. Less than 2 months later, Wiggins was packaged up with Anthony Bennett and a future first-rounder and shipped to Minnesota for Kevin Love. Suddenly, the Cavs had a new big three: LeBron James, Kyrie, and Kevin Love. That trio would go on to win a championship. But the way it all lined up, that's where the theory starts cooking. Fans didn't just raise an eyebrow at the odds. They noticed the pattern. Cleveland won the lottery 3 times in 4 years after LeBron left. That's wild on its own. Add in the fact that the league's most marketable player returned the exact same summer as they landed the #1 pick. The timing looked way too clean. The pick was flipped instantly to build a super team. It all felt way too perfect. So now, this theory lives on. Fans point to this moment as one of the clearest examples of the draft lottery looking rigged. The league denies it. Cavs execs roll their eye, but the suspicion hasn't gone away. With other teams getting lucky at just the right time too, it keeps the conspiracy alive. Level 3, mid-level hidden story. 2011, slam dunk contest theory. Blake Griffin flies over a Kia Optima. A choir sings "I Believe I Can Fly," and the arena erupts. But as soon as the lights dim, the whispers start. The theory says the dunk contest wasn't just about dunks. It was a staged commercial dressed up as a competition. Kia was a major sponsor of the NBA, and Griffin, he was already in their ads. So when he cleared the hood of a brand new Optima and took home the trophy, some fans started asking the obvious. Was this about dunking or branding? It didn't help that promo material showing Griffin and the car reportedly leaked before the contest even happened. That timing raised eyebrows. The theory says outcome was already decided, that the league had a script, and Griffin leaping over a sponsor's car was the closing act. Meanwhile, JaVale McGee was throwing down creative, technical dunks. 2 balls, 2 hoops, real originality, but no choir, no car, no moment built for national television. Griffin later admitted the dunk idea was his, but the specific car wasn't. He wanted a convertible. They gave him a sedan, and that detail, it's what makes the theory stick. The NBA controlled the prop. The league wanted the sponsorship, and they got it. The contest had all the drama of a scripted ad spot. Judges handed out tens, but the real payoff was for Kia. To theory believers, Griffin didn't just jump over a car, he jumped straight into a marketing campaign. The trophy said Slam Dunk Champion, but the whole thing looked like it was brought to you by the NBA sales team. Jordan push-off, Game 6, 1998 Finals, Bulls down 1. Michael Jordan dribbles right, crosses left, and Brian Russell is guarding him tight. Then just as Jordan plants for the shot, his left hand touches Russell's hip. Russell stumbles. Jordan pulls up. Swish. Bulls lead. Bulls win. 6th ring secured. But here's the theory. Did Jordan push? Fans and analysts have watched that moment frame by frame for decades. The theory says Jordan used that offhand to create separation, giving himself just enough room to rise up uncontested. No whistle, no foul. Just one of the most iconic shots in basketball history. Jordan's take? He said Russell's momentum did all the work, that he barely touched, but others see it differently. John Stockton, Russell's own teammate, flat out said there was a push. Still, even Stockton added he wouldn't have called it. Danny Crawford, the referee closest to the action, said the contact was light. Not enough for a finals foul. The NBA's known for swallowing whistles late in close games, especially in the finals. Let the players decide it, they say. And in this case, the theory argues that the league's unofficial rule of no ticky-tack Calls in big moments worked in Jordan's favor. Russell was already leaning that direction, which might have helped the fall look worse. Still, the camera caught that hand on the hip, and conspiracy theorists have never let it go. Was it a subtle nudge or just the laws of physics? Either way, Jordan rose, fired, and nailed the shot. Whether it was a clean move or a crafty shove, it ended the Bulls dynasty on a perfect note, one that still sparks debate every time the clip rolls. Chris Paul versus Scott Foster, the targeting theory. The theory claims veteran referee Scott Foster hasn't just been tough on Chris Paul, he's actively targeted him. The numbers are what sparked it. Paul's teams have lost at least 13 straight playoff games when Foster is the crew chief. That stat alone turned a referee assignment into a red flag. It's not just box scores either. Paul has said the situation is personal. In 2023, he pointed to a confrontation from years earlier, claiming Foster honked at him in front of his kid. That led to a sit-down with league officials, Paul, his father, Doc Rivers, and Foster. Not exactly a casual misunderstanding. On the floor, things haven't looked any better. Paul's been hit with technicals from Foster that he said felt more like power moves than officiating. In one case, he was tossed from a game and later hinted that the league was already aware of what was going on. We already know the history, he said. Analysts notice patterns. In games where Paul's team was favored, they still lost with Foster officiating. The theory argues this can't be random. Instead, it sees Foster's assignments and in-game decisions as deliberate, enough to tilt momentum in critical matchups. Foster's reputation doesn't help. In league surveys, he's often voted among the most disliked referees by players. The theory says the NBA's continued assignment of Foster to Paul's games, despite the controversy, makes it worse. It's seen as either negligence or quiet approval. According to the theory, this isn't just bad luck or a cold streak. It's a one-sided feud in uniform. And every time Foster blows the whistle, the theory says it's less about the rules and more about the rival. 2017 NBA Draft Lottery Theory. The Lakers were teetering on the edge. With the third worst record, they had a 15.6% chance at the top pick and a real risk of losing it altogether if it fell outside the top three. But when the ping pong ball settled, they landed second. Just enough to keep the pick. Just enough to draft Lonzo Ball. Here's where the theory kicks in. Ball was a homegrown product. UCLA star, flashy passer, huge media draw, and his father, LeVar, was a walking soundbite factory. The Lakers needed a spark, and the league, according to the theory, it needed the Lakers back in the spotlight. If their pick slipped to fourth, it was heading to Philadelphia. Instead, they stayed exactly where they had to, right in line for a media-friendly reboot. For theory believers, that felt a little too neat, too convenient, like a plot twist the league wanted in its summer drama. The numbers weren't outrageous. The outcome was possible, but the theory isn't about math. It's about vibes. A big market team on the ropes gets saved by a miracle bound, and suddenly there's a shiny new face of the franchise with a built-in marketing. The lottery took place behind closed doors. Sure, no phones, no edit. Team reps and auditors watched. But when the result fits the script too perfectly, people start writing their own version. The Lakers avoided disaster. They got the hometown kid. The crowd got a new storyline. And the theory? It stuck around, fueled by timing, optics, and a little bit of bounce-induced magic. Enes Kanter, blackballed theory. The theory says Enes Kanter freedom didn't fade out of the league because of talent. He was shut out for his activism. Drafted third overall in 2011, he played for multiple teams and developed a reputation as a physical rebounder and reliable role player. But off the court, he was loud and not about basketball. Kanter criticized the Chinese government over human rights abuses, especially toward the Uyghur population. He wore protest-themed sneakers. He called out the NBA and its business ties to China, and soon after, he was gone. The theory claims that wasn't a coincidence. It was a consequence. In early 2022, after a trade to Houston, the Rockets waived. That was his last NBA stop. Kanter says his outspoken stance made him too risky for teams tied to league revenue from China. He believes his activism turned him from a veteran asset into a business liability. He publicly stated, "Of course, everybody knows I am being blackballed by the NBA for the things I stand for." He even told Congress he was blacklisted. According to the theory, his value on the court didn't drop off. His willingness to speak out just became too inconvenient. Critics of the theory argue it's just a case of declining performance. But Kanter's supporters point to timing. His stats didn't crater. His minutes disappeared right as his activism hit headline. And in some cases, Chinese broadcasters reportedly pulled games when he played. The theory sees the league's silence as telling. No official discipline, no acknowledgement, just fewer offers, a quiet exit, and a player who says standing up cost him his spot. Not benched, not cut, blackball. That's the claim. Level 4. Serious insider lore. Luka trade and Mavericks relocation. The theory says Luka wasn't just traded, he was removed to help break the city's connection to the Mavericks. On February 2nd, 2025, Dallas sent Luka, age 25, to the Lakers for 32-year-old Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 pick. No injuries, no trade demand, no obvious basketball reason, just one of the league's biggest stars, gone. Luka had just taken Dallas to the finals the season before. He averaged 33.9 points per game, yet the return package looked like a downgrade. Older talent, minimal long-term value. That's where the theory starts. It claims the trade wasn't about roster building, it was about fan erosion. The Mavericks were recently purchased by the Adelson family, owners with deep roots in Las Vegas and casino development. According to the theory, the Luka trade was a way to sour the Dallas fan base and clear a path toward relocating the team to Las Vegas. After the trade, protests broke out. Season ticket holders backed out. Trust evaporated. Team Governor Patrick Dumont denied any relocation plans. Commissioner Adam Silver also dismissed the idea. But the theory says their words don't match the moves. Gut the roster, tank the fan support, let the city turn on the franchise, and then pitch a fresh start in a city that's been circling an NBA expansion bid for years. To believers, the Luka deal wasn't just a bad trade. It was the first domino, a strategic unraveling of a franchise so that when the move to Las Vegas happens, the backlash will already be exhausted. Not a rebuild, a relocation in slow motion. Paul Pierce pooped his pants and faked an injury. Game 1 of the 2008 NBA Final. Paul Pierce hits the floor in the third quarter after a collision with a Lakers player. He grabs his knee. The crowd goes silent. Moments later, he's in a wheelchair, being rolled off the court like his season just ended. Then, minutes later, he jogs back out of the tunnel like nothing happened, hits some shots, leads the Celtics to a win. That's where the theory begins. Fans started asking, what kind of injury needs a wheelchair? And then disappears. 5 minutes later, the theory says it wasn't a knee. It was a bathroom emergency. Specifically, that Pierce had an accident on the court and used the wheelchair as cover to avoid walking off with a stain on his white shorts. The idea exploded online. It had just enough logic to live. Fast injury exit, suspiciously quick return, and no actual diagnosis afterward. Then in 2019, Pierce added fuel. He went on TV and said, I had to go to the bathroom. Cue the internet meltdown. But soon after, he walked it back, saying he was joking, and argued that if he really had an accident, sitting in a wheelchair would have made things worse. That didn't stop the theory. The image of Pierce in that chair, combined with the bizarre timeline, locked it into NBA lore. Whether it was a real injury or a fake out for a bathroom break, the moment still stands out. He returned, played great, and won Finals MVP. But for some fans, Game 1 wasn't just about the comeback, it was about the cover-up. And the wheelchair wasn't for his leg, it was for his dignity. 2012, draft rigged for New Orleans. The theory says the NBA didn't leave the draft to chance. They handed the number 1 pick to the Hornets on purpose. Why? To gift wrap Anthony Davis for a soon-to-be new owner. In December 2010, the NBA stepped in and bought the Hornets from George Shinn. The league literally owned the team. They ran it, they blocked trades, and they searched for a buyer. Fast forward to April 13th, 2012, Tom Benson, who also owned the Saints, agreed to purchase the Hornets for $338 million. Then, just weeks later, on May 30th, New Orleans hit the draft jackpot with only a 13.7% chance. That win landed them Anthony Davis, a generational talent, a player expected to reshape the franchise. And that's where the theory takes hold. The timing felt too perfect. New owner secured, value-boosting superstar acquired. The theory claims the league sweetened the pot, that Benson didn't just buy a team, he bought a team about to draft a future all-star. Even though the lottery was conducted in a sealed room with league officials, team reps, media, and auditors, skeptics aren't convinced. They argue the league had motive and opportunity. They say the drawing might have looked official, but the outcome was engineered. Davis changed everything for the Hornets. Marketability, performance, long-term relevance, all boosted. And the theory believes that wasn't luck. It was a business decision dressed as a lottery win. New owner, new face of the franchise, and a neat little storyline that kept the league's investment from turning into a disaster. Secret NBA GM on Twitter. The theory says someone on the inside, front office, agent circle, or maybe a disgruntled staffer, went rogue and started leaking league secrets straight to fans under the name Dropping Dimes 20. Not some vague tweet storm either. This account hit with precision. James Harden opting in and requesting a trade, called before Woj or Shams. Bruce Brown signing with Indiana, tweeted early. Fred VanVleet to Houston, Chris Middleton staying in Milwaukee, all posted ahead of the news cycle. Then once the Harden report blew up and NBA Twitter took notice, the account tweeted, "I'm him," and vanished, just like that. Dropping dimes, 20 deactivated, gone, deleted. Fans started joking the NBA kicked down the door. Then came the copycats, accounts claiming the name, chasing the same hype. One came back, dropping dimes 50, sounding just like the original. More scoops, same tone, same chaos. The theory spiraled. Some said it was a fired Sixers intern, laid off after team budget cuts and out for revenge. Others believed it was an assistant GM or scout running the best burner account of all time. No one confirmed anything, but the accuracy stayed creepy. Even tweets that weren't archived, like the Damian Lillard trade update or Cam Whitmore's unexpected draft slide, somehow matched what ended up happening. Coincidence? Or real-time leaks without a trace? Michael Jordan pushed The Last Dance. The theory says The Last Dance wasn't just a documentary, it was a counterattack. After LeBron James pulled off the 3-1 comeback in the 2016 final, GOAT talk wasn't just trending, it was tilting. Suddenly, LeBron was being crowned, and Michael Jordan, he was watching it all unfold. That same year, Jordan reportedly gave ESPN the green light for the documentary footage. He'd been sitting on hours of never-before-seen content from that 97-98 Bulls season. Years passed without a release. Then LeBron takes down the 73-win Warriors, and Jordan says, "Let's do it." Not subtle, not accidental. The theory claims Jordan saw the shift and responded. 10 episodes, full control, stories told through his lens, his voice, his highlight reel. It was 6 rings, clutch plays, iconic moments, on repeat. It wasn't a documentary, it was a reminder, and it landed. Players like Ja Morant admitted it changed their opinion on the GOAT debate. Analysts started rewriting the rankings. The conversation moved back in Jordan's direction, exactly when it looked like the torch might have passed. Fans point to the timing as the giveaway. Why then? Why not release it years earlier or wait longer? Because according to the theory, that was the moment. The pressure was real. LeBron's narrative was climbing, and Jordan decided to lock his in. Not with a tweet, not with a press tour, with a 10-part legacy drop that recentered the basketball universe around number 23. Whether it was reaction or coincidence, the theory says Jordan saw his crown slipping and responded by producing a global reminder that the throne wasn't empty. It was just waiting for its close-up. Level 5. Underground NBA Files. 2019. Draft lottery was rigged for New Orleans. The theory says the NBA didn't just hand the Pelicans a top pick, they handed them a lifeline. In January of 2019, Anthony Davis demanded out. He wanted a trade, and he wanted it now. That shook the Pelicans to the core. Their only star wanted to leave, and suddenly, the team's future in New Orleans looked shaky. Fast forward to May 14th. The Pelicans had just a 6% shot at the number 1 pick. Not the worst odds, but nowhere near the best. And yet, when the ping pong ball settled, New Orleans landed the top spot and the right to draft Zion Williamson, a generational talent, explosive, marketable, box office ready. According to the theory, this wasn't luck, it was strategy. The NBA had stepped in to keep the Pelicans from collapsing. With Davis on the way out, the team needed a new face, a reason for fans to stay, a reason for the franchise to remain viable in a market that had already flirted with instability. And Zion was the answer. The theory points to history. In 2012, after the league had owned the team, the Pelicans won the lottery and drafted Davis. Then in 2019, right after Davis wanted out, the ping pong balls land perfectly again. To believers, that pattern's a little too clean. The league says the lottery is airtight, random, secured. But the timing of Zion's arrival, right when the Pelicans needed a miracle, makes the theory hard to ignore. Felt like the NBA wasn't just shaping the draft board, it was saving a franchise. Twice. Terry Rozier gambling investigation theory. This one centers on the idea that Terry Rozier might have been involved in rigging his own performance for gambling gains. The spotlight landed on a game from March 23rd, 2023. At the time, Terry was playing for Charlotte. That night, he logged only 9 minutes, citing a foot injury. But here's what raised eyebrow. A wave of large bets poured in before tip-off, all banking on Terry underperforming. The group US Integrity picked up on the pattern and flagged it. The NBA launched a probe, and by October 23, 2025, Terry was arrested by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Prosecutors claim he shared insider info, specifically that he'd exit early due to injury, with people who placed over $200,000 in bets tied to his stat line. That game wasn't random. Between December 2022 and March 2024, prosecutors say this crew placed bets using leaked info from inside NBA Circle. The result? charges for wire fraud conspiracy, and money laundering. The NBA quickly placed Terry on leave and froze his salary. But not everything points straight to guilt. Back in 2024, the league ran its own internal review and didn't find Terry breaking any NBA rules. Plus, low stats in a single game, even with weird timing, doesn't prove much on its own. Still, the case is live, and the implications are huge. Legalized betting has cracked the door for stuff like this. If Terry's guilty, the fallout could stretch far past him. No verdict yet, no final chapter written. But if the theory holds, it'd mark one of the most damaging scandals the league's faced. NBA Finals, Facebook, leak theory. Right before Game 7 of the 2016 Western Conference Finals, fans noticed something that made a lot of people raise their eyebrows. On the NBA's official Facebook page, a finals matchup graph appeared showing the Cleveland Cavaliers and Golden State Warriors. Only problem? The Warriors hadn't even played the Oklahoma City Thunder yet. That Game 7 hadn't tipped off, but there it was, in plain sight. Fans jumped on it fast. Screenshots flew all over social media, and just like that, the theory mill was wide open. The post got pulled down quickly, but it was too late. People already saw it. The idea spread. Maybe the NBA already knew the result. Maybe this whole thing wasn't as spontaneous as they wanted everyone to believe. Commissioner Adam Silver tried to explain it away. He said it was a Ticketmaster error, a scheduling thing that got published too early. According to him, the league didn't have any preference for who made it to the finals. He even pointed out that they couldn't guess which matchup would get better ratings anyway, but fans weren't buying it. The real twist? The Warriors did win Game 7. The matchup from that leaked post ended up being exactly right. Coincidence? Maybe. But for a lot of people, that one post was all they needed to believe something else was going on. The timing just lined up a little too neatly. Even if it was a mistake, it gave fans more reason to believe the narrative was written before the games were even played. That one accidental click turned into the smoking gun for a theory that still gets people talking today. Dwight Howard was left off the NBA's top 75 because of politics. On paper, Dwight Howard had the kind of resume that should have made the NBA's top 75 list a lock. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 8 All-Star selections, 5 All-NBA first-team honors. The guy had hardware, but when the league dropped its anniversary list, his name was nowhere. Fans weren't quiet, and neither were players. Stan Van Gundy, who coached him in Orlando, didn't hold back. He called it ridiculous. Richard Jefferson didn't mince words either. Said straight up it was political. Not exactly random fans yelling into the void. These were voices from inside the league. Dwight spoke up too. He didn't dance around it. He blamed politics. Not the government kind, the behind-the-scenes, image-shaping kind. Stuff that doesn't show up on stat sheets. He pointed to off-court stories, the hard-to-deal-with reputation, and yes, that Charlotte incident, where things got real awkward with a courtside grab that went viral. And even with all that, his teammates stood by him. Jameer Nelson flat out said it made no sense. Fans online started digging into comparisons. And what they found? Dwight outperformed plenty of guys who made the list. More blocks, more rebound, better prime. The numbers weren't hiding. But this wasn't about number. That's what makes the theory hit harder. It's not just a snub. It's about how off-court perception can override on-court dominance. A top 75 list that claims to honor basketball greatness might have been swayed by personal bias. That's the theory anyway, that Dwight's resume wasn't the problem. It was everything else. And that changes how a lot of people see the list altogether. The NBA blackballed Royce White for his activism, not just his anxiety. Back in 2012, the Houston Rockets took Royce White with the 16th pick, knowing he had generalized anxiety disorder and a serious fear of flying. He asked for accommodations like traveling by bus, and the league agreed. But that NBA career, it barely existed. 3 games, that's it. A couple D-League appearances, then a short run in Sacramento. Most people chalked it up to anxiety, but the theory says otherwise. It wasn't about logistics. It was about what White said out loud. He didn't just talk about mental health. He went after Big Pharma, questioned government power, and called out what he saw as racial capitalism in pro sports. That's when things shifted. After leaving the league, he didn't fade away. He marched at protests after George Floyd's death, slammed the NBA for selective messaging, and refused to toe the line. That's where the theory really takes off. Insiders say teams were quietly told he was a risk, not because of anxiety, but because of what he might say next. He wasn't silent, and that scared people. No team brought him back, even after he dominated overseas and won MVP in Canada. Meanwhile, the NBA leaned into mental health campaigns. But White wasn't buying it. He said they hijacked the message without backing it up. The idea here is simple. The league didn't want the noise, not the public challenges, not the activism. not the question. His anxiety became the shield for a much deeper move, keeping someone out who wouldn't stay in line. He could still hoop, he just couldn't be controlled. And that, more than anything, may have cost him his career. Level 6. Dark basketball secrets. The Spurs broke the AC on purpose. Game 1 of the 2014 NBA Finals took a strange turn. The San Antonio Spurs were hosting the Miami Heat, and inside the AT&T Center, things got way too hot. Literally, the air conditioning failed, and temperatures inside the building climbed past 90 degrees. LeBron James, clearly affected, was caught during a timeout saying, "I'm going to need some colder water now. They are trying to smoke us out of here." That line stuck with people. Late in the fourth quarter, James cramped up so badly, he had to leave the game. He missed the final 4 minutes, and without him, the Spurs exploded. They went on a 31-9 run, capped by a 16-3 stretch that locked up the win. After the game, San Antonio blamed the Heat on an electrical issue and put out a statement apologizing, but fans weren't buying it. The theory says this wasn't some random failure. It was a calculated move to wear down Miami's star, especially one known for dealing with cramping in high heat conditions. The building gets cooled every night of the regular season, but somehow, during the biggest game of the year, it malfunctions. The timing felt too perfect. San Antonio took full advantage. They won the series in 5 games and walked away with their 5th title. But for some fans, Game 1 still sticks out, not because of a buzzer beater or a highlight dunk, but because the building felt like a sauna. The theory goes that the Spurs didn't just bring the heat with their play, they made sure the building did too. And it may have changed the finals before it ever really began. Draymond Green's suspension was rigged to save the final. The Warriors were rolling through the 2016 final, up 3-1, with that record-breaking 73-9 season behind them. It looked like the championship was locked in. Then Game 4 flipped the script. Late in the fourth quarter, LeBron James stepped over Draymond Green in what many saw as a taunt. Green didn't hold back. He reacted, swung his arm, and made contact with LeBron below the belt. The league reviewed it and called it a flagrant foul 1. That alone wouldn't have been a huge deal, but it gave Green 4 flagrant foul points during the postseason, and that meant a 1-game suspension. The timing couldn't have been better. For the league, that is. With Green out for Game 5, the Warriors couldn't hold off the Cavaliers, losing 112-97. Suddenly, what looked like a wrap turned into a comeback story. The theory? That the NBA wanted more drama. A longer series meant higher ratings, bigger profit, and way more headline. Even former referee Tim Donaghy hinted that the league might have had a reason to drag it out. It was all just too clean, too perfect. Green was the emotional core of the team. Without him, Golden State lost their edge. The Cavaliers didn't waste the chance. They stormed all the way back, and the rest is history. And here's the kicker. Draymond Green admitted later that his suspension could have cost them the title. Whether the league planned it or not, that 1-game sit-out changed everything. Fans have run with the theory ever since. And honestly, I get why. The whole thing just felt way too convenient. The 2023 NBA Draft Lottery was rigged for San Antonio to get Victor Wembanyama. When the Spurs won the number 1 pick on May 16, 2023, a lot of fans were quick to call foul. They only had a 14% chance to land it, but somehow came out on top. And it wasn't their first lucky break either. San Antonio had already won the number 1 pick twice before, first in 1987 to grab David Robinson, then again in 1997 for Tim Duncan. Both turned into Hall of Famers and championship anchor. That's where the theory kicks in. People started claiming the league had plans. They wanted Wemby in San Antonio. Why? Because the Spurs had already built a legacy with international stars. Tony Parker and Manu were huge in that era, and Wemby, coming from France, seemed like the perfect next chapter. Critics say the NBA also had a business angle. The Spurs hadn't made the playoffs in 4 straight years. Interest was fading. Ticket sales? Not great. But landing Wemby instantly changed all that. Meanwhile, teams like Detroit and Houston, who had worse records, dropped in the order. Then Wemby made things spicier. He talked about San Antonio's connection with France like it was destiny. That only made the theorists louder. The league says the lottery's clean and controlled. They even televised the results, but not the actual drawing. Fans didn't care. To them, this was too perfect to be luck. 3 number 1 picks, 3 generational talent, and now possibly another. Dynasty, the timing, the connections, the history, all of it had fans convinced the draft wasn't just a lottery, it was a setup, and the Spurs were always meant to win. John Stockton, assist inflation theory. This one's been floating around for years. The idea? The Utah Jazz stat crew boosted John Stockton's assist numbers to make him look like a passing legend. The main fuel for the theory is his assist average, 10.9 at home versus 10.1 on the road. To some, that split screams. foul play. But here's where it gets interesting. That kind of home bump isn't rare at all. Jason Kidd had a bigger gap. Mark Jackson did too. Assists aren't cold, hard stats. They're judgment calls. And back in the 90s, those calls were all over the place. Still, the rumors kept growing. One former scorekeeper even admitted to padding stats and mentioned Stockton by name. And here's the kicker. Even if Stockton's home assists were downgraded to match his road numbers, he'd still be at the top of the all-time list. By a lot. A deep Reddit investigation laid it out plain and simple. The theory sounded juicy, but the math didn't cooperate. So yeah, while it's fun to picture Stockton racking up fake assists every night at the Delta Center, the reality is less dramatic. If there was an effort to rig his numbers, it didn't really work. He'd still be passing everyone in the record books. The theory's got buzz, but the numbers just won't back it up. Turns out Stockton didn't need any help making history. Ryan Anderson is colorblind. This theory claims Ryan Anderson's shooting struggles in certain arenas weren't just slumps, they were caused by color blindness, specifically red. The idea is that when he played in red-heavy arenas, his depth perception got thrown off. Courts like the Bulls, Hawks, and Rockets loaded with red, and supposedly that color messes with how far away the basket looks, making it appear closer than it really is. Now the numbers are what make people lean into this one. During the 2016 season with the Rockets, Anderson shot 37% from the field and 33.2% from three at home. But when he hit the road, he jumped to 46.1% from the field and 46.7% from three. And it wasn't just field goals. Even his free throws improved, 77.3% at home versus 92.9% on the road. That's not a small bump. People also bring up Tracy McGrady, who once said Toyota Center setup messed with his depth perception. Add that to Chicago's red court, another red-heavy place, and the theory picks up steam. Anderson's career numbers in Chicago, 33.5% from the field and 29.1% from three, both way under his usual production. The theory says it's not a coincidence. The red color scheme throws everything off, and if Anderson really is colorblind, it would explain why he looked like a completely different player depending on where he played. No official diagnosis, no confirmation, just a weird pattern, some shaky shooting, and a lot of red. But hey, sometimes the wildest theories have the strangest receipts. Level 7, NBA conspiracies you're not supposed to know. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf was blackballed for his protest. In 1996, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf refused to stand during the national anthem. At the time, he was one of the NBA's top shooters, a former most improved player, and a starter for the Denver Nuggets. But after the anthem protest, everything changed. The NBA suspended him for one game, fined him over $31,000, and within months, Denver traded him to Sacramento. That's where the theory kicks in. Abdul-Rauf's role immediately shrank. From lead scorer to role player, his minutes and touches dropped fast. Not because he couldn't play, his shooting percentage stayed strong, but because, as the theory goes, he became a political liability. He was vocal. He called the flag a symbol of oppression. He spoke on faith, race, and government power. That alone set him apart from most athletes of the time. He didn't stay quiet, and the league didn't embrace that. He said he knows what happened, that teams were told not to bring him in, not officially, but through quiet conversations and cautionary warning. He drew comparisons to Colin Kaepernick decades later. Different sport, same story. There were no official bans, no public memo, but teams stopped calling. Despite staying in shape and showing he could still shoot, no one gave him a real shot. He played overseas, came back briefly, but never found a steady role again. The NBA later leaned into activism, but Abdul-Rauf called that out too. Said the messaging was watered down, the truth buried. His protest came too early, his voice too sharp. The theory says he didn't vanish from the league because he lost his game. He vanished because he used his voice, and the league wasn't ready to hear it. Manute Bol lied about his age. The theory says Bol wasn't in his 20s when he entered the NBA. He was much older. Officially, Bol was born October 16, 1962, which would have made him about 22 or 23 when he was drafted in 1985. But that date, completely made up, according to the coach who brought him to the U.S. Kevin Mackey, then at Cleveland State, admitted he created the birthday from scratch. His quote, "Every athletic door is open at 19. Every athletic door is closed when you're 35. He didn't think Bol was anywhere near his 20s. In fact, Mackey suggested Bol could have been 40 or even 50 when he entered the league. Teammates added to the mystery. Jason Williams once joked Bol might have been 55 before retiring. None of this was backed by documents because in Bol's home region, formal birth records weren't common. Even Bol himself admitted he didn't know his exact age. What makes the theory stick is how long Bol lasted in the NBA and how unusual his body was. Standing 7'7", with a frame built for blocking shots, he played a full decade. If the birth date was wrong, he might have been well into his 40s by the time he retired. Of course, there's no birth certificate to prove he was older, but if Mackey made up the date just to get him eligible, then the entire career was built on that number. The theory says Bol wasn't a young phenom. He was an older warrior, dominating in a league that never truly knew how old he was. And if that's true, it makes his career even more unreal. Not just a tall tale, maybe the most mysterious age gap in NBA history. Dikembe's draft tweet theory on May 17, 2016. Hours before the NBA draft lottery went live, Dikembe hit the internet with a tweet congratulating the Philadelphia 76ers on landing the number 1 pick. The problem? The pick hadn't been announced yet. The ping pong balls were still in the machine. Fans lost it. Conspiracy theories exploded across social media. How did Dikembe know the result before it happened? Had the draft already been decided behind the scenes? The tweet looked like a giant spoiler for a supposedly random event. Later, Dikembe tried to clear it up. He said the Sixers had emailed him and a few other former players with pre-written messages to post if the team won. The plan was to have them ready to fire off after the lottery results were announced. He claimed he misread the instructions and sent his message early by mistake. He deleted the tweet and followed up with a revised one, saying he got carried away. But it was too late. Screenshots had already flooded the internet. The damage was done. The NBA defended the process. They pointed out that the real drawing happens behind closed doors, with team reps and independent observers locked in with no outside contact. But fans weren't convinced. They kept pointing to the fact that the Sixers did end up with the number 1 pick, just like Dikembe's tweet predicted. For conspiracy theorists, it was a slip-up that exposed a fixed result. For others, it was just a case of bad timing and a simple mistake. One early tweet, 4 hours too soon, and almost 10 years later, people are still debating whether it was an accident or the draft's smoking gun. Markelle Fultz's motorcycle accident. Here's how the theory goes. During the summer after being drafted first overall by Philadelphia, Markelle Fultz crashed a motorcycle, messed up his shoulder, and the whole thing got buried. This didn't start from some anonymous fan forum either. In November of 2018, an NBA reporter went live on a radio show and said it directly. That same day, a basketball site claimed they got messages from someone backing the whole story. The timing was sketchy. Fultz had already become the most confusing number 1 pick in years. He entered the league with a clean jumper and left fans wondering if he forgot how to shoot. His form fell apart so fast, people started looking for reasons, and the motorcycle theory stuck. Then came the medical angle. Doctors diagnosed him with thoracic outlet syndrome, a condition involving nerves and blood vessels around the shoulder. Legit, sure, but less exciting than a secret crash. The theory didn't die. Fultz's agent called it 100% false. Fultz said he'd heard the rumors, but didn't say much more. No hospital file, no news story, no eyewitness popping up to say, "I saw the wreck." Just whispered. The Sixers kept things vague. He missed chunks of games. His mechanics were bizarre. And fans just kept asking, what happened? Now years later, Fultz is still around. Third team, decent backup, serviceable minutes. The shoulder works again kind of, but that one summer, still a blank space. The theory stays alive because nobody ever really answered the question. Not with proof, just enough silence to keep it alive. Was it a motorcycle? Was it just nerves? Or did something happen that the league didn't want to explain? Rob Hennigan, Oklahoma City trade sabotage theory. In 2016, the Orlando Magic made a trade that's still getting side-eyed. Then GM Rob Hennigan sent Victor Oladipo, Ersan Ilyasova, and the draft rights to Sabonis to Oklahoma City in exchange for Serge Ibaka. At the time, people questioned. Looking back, it turned into a disaster for Orlando. Oladipo became an all-star. Sabonis did too. Ibaka, he stayed 8 months before the Magic shipped him to Toronto for Terrence Ross and a pick. That's where the theory starts. Hennigan had previously worked for Oklahoma City before getting the Orlando job. And after being fired in 2017, following a brutal record of 132 in 278, he ended up back in Oklahoma City. Fans started doing the math. A one-sided trade, a direct pipeline of talent, and a return to his old team? The theory says it wasn't incompetence, it was sabotage, that Hennigan knew what he was doing all along, playing it long and quiet to hand over key pieces that would shape the Thunder's future. Oklahoma City didn't waste the haul. They used Oladipo and Sabonis to land Paul George. Then George helped bring in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a full chain reaction. Meanwhile, Orlando got a short Ibaka stint and a lingering sense of regret. There's no proof Hennigan tanked the trade on purpose. Execs move around the league all the time, but the optics? Rough. The trade reshaped both franchises. One climbed, one stalled. Whether it was sabotage or just a career-defining whiff, the theory lives on because the timeline just lines up too perfectly, and that's all conspiracy theories need. A little doubt and a lot of bad hindsight. Level 8. The Abyss. Ersan İlyasova is not actually him. The theory says the Turkish forward, known for draining threes and drawing charges, isn't who he claims to be. According to the conspiracy, Ersan İlyasova was actually born as Arsen İlyasov in Bukhara, Uzbekistan, back in 1984. Not in Turkey in 1987. Here's where things get weird. In 2002, records show an 18-year-old named Arsen İlyasov crossed into Turkey and disappeared from Uzbek documentation. Not long after, a man in Turkey registered a 15-year-old son named Ersan İlyasova, claiming he forgot to do it earlier. No previous Turkish paperwork, no school records, just a brand new identity that suddenly lined up with a promising basketball career. Critics point to his last name. İlyasova is a rare surname in Turkey, and the ova ending is more common in Slavic culture and typically used for women. That raised eyebrows, especially when Uzbekistan's basketball federation filed a formal complaint with FIBA, arguing that İlyasova was actually İlyasov and had no right playing for Turkey. FIBA reviewed it, but ruled there wasn't enough evidence to disqualify him. So Ersan kept hooping for the Turkish national team and in the NBA. But the theory didn't go away. It follows him wherever he plays. The strange paperwork, the missing records, the sudden name swap. It all adds up to something that feels off. No confirmed lie, no confession, just a string of coincidences and quiet paperwork. Whether he's Arsen or Ersan, the doubt never really faded. And that's why the theory still sticks. Not because it's proven, but because it's never been fully erased. Thonmaker lied about his age when entering the NBA. In the 2016 NBA draft, Thonmaker was listed as 19 years old, but the theory says he was actually much older, possibly 23 or 24. Fueling the suspicion was a yearbook photo from 2010, showing Maker as a graduating senior at Aaron Moore Catholic College in Australia. If accurate, that would make him 17 or 18 at the time, not 13, like his official records claim. Before the draft, reports surfaced that some NBA teams refused to consider him altogether because they believed he wasn't being honest about his age. The timing, the photo, and the fact that Maker moved through several countries, South Sudan, Australia, the United States, and Canada, made it hard to pin down any official documentation. Critics said his immigration path made it easier to reset paperwork. Physically, stood out. He looked older, moved like a grown man, and had the frame of someone past his teenage years. But despite the questions, no birth certificate from South Sudan ever surfaced. Maker denied everything, and the NBA let him enter based on the documents available. He went 10th overall, but once he got into the league, things didn't click like scouts hoped. He averaged under 5 points per game and never developed into a top-tier talent. Supporters of the theory say age played a major role. If he was already in his mid-20s, the raw potential narrative didn't hold. His development curve made less sense. No one ever confirmed a lie, but no one ever settled the question either. That's why the age theory around Thon Maker still circles. Not proven, not forgotten, just left hanging in plain sight. The NBA forced the Grizzlies out of Vancouver. When the league expanded into Canada in 1995, two teams were born, the Toronto Raptors and the Vancouver Grizzlies. Both started slow, but only one got the league's full attention. The Raptors caught fire with Vince Carter leading the way. The Grizzlies, not so lucky. Vancouver never got a superstar. Their best player, Sharif Abdur-Rahim, put up solid numbers, but never pushed them into relevance. The team kept losing, and the fans stopped showing up. In year one, the Raptors were third in league attendance. The Grizzlies were 14th, and it only got worse from there. Behind the scenes, things didn't look much better. Owner John McCaw Jr. lived in Seattle and barely engaged with Vancouver. Local sponsors stayed away. The Canadian dollar was weak, travel costs were high, and there was no big-name talent willing to sign in British Columbia. That's when the theory takes shape. As interest dropped, the NBA quietly pulled back support. Less promotion, less visibility, and no real plan to help the team stay afloat. It felt like they'd already decided Vancouver wasn't part of the long-term picture. After 6 straight losing seasons, the Grizzlies were shipped off to Memphis. The league called it relocation, but many saw it as abandonment. The NBA never admitted it failed in Vancouver. Instead, it walked away and hoped fans would forget. The theory says the league wanted out. Rather than build a path to success in Western Canada, they let the franchise fade. then handed it off to a city they believed would fit better into the NBA machine. Not a market problem, a league decision. That's what keeps this theory alive. Jimmy Butler is Michael Jordan's son. This theory claims Jimmy Butler isn't just a star in his own right. He's secretly the son of Michael Jordan. It started in 2016 when a post on a gossip site suggested Jordan had a hidden child born in 1989. The story goes like this. Jordan allegedly fathered a son in 1988, paid the mother to stay silent, and stopped payments 13 years later. That's when, supposedly, the child was kicked out. The theory got louder because of Butler's real backstory. He was born in September of 1989 in Houston. His father left early, and he was kicked out by his mother at 13. The ages line up loosely, and Jordan was reportedly in Texas around that time. Supporters point to more than timing. They say Butler looks like Jordan. They say his intensity, his clutch gene, his attitude, all feel familiar. Even the way he carries himself on the court. They're both fierce, driven, and seem to thrive off being underestimated. But here's the snag. There's no evidence. Butler's mother is Londa Butler, and there's no connection between her and Jordan. No documentation, no confirmed history, no public statement. The timeline also falls apart when you look closer. And despite all the rumors, neither Butler nor Jordan has ever commented seriously on the idea. Still, the theory sticks around. Maybe it's the mystery. Maybe it's just fans trying to explain how someone like Butler showed up and started torching teams out of nowhere. True or not, it's become one of the NBA's most talked about legends. No DNA test, no confirmation, just speculation and screenshots. The kind of rumor that lives on because nobody really shuts it down. Yao Ming lab creation theory. The idea here is that Yao Ming wasn't just a once-in-a-generation talent. He was shaped long before he ever touched a basketball. The theory starts with his parents. His dad stood 7 feet tall. His mom stood 6'3", and both played professionally. They were widely known as the tallest couple in China. According to the theory, that pairing wasn't just destiny, it was nudge. The belief is that officials encouraged them to have a child who could eventually become the country's athletic centerpiece. Not long after Yao was born in 1980, reports say state officials monitored his growth closely. They measured him constantly, projected he'd pass 7 feet, and built a plan around it. Regular school took a backseat. Yao was placed in a sports institution that funneled him toward basketball. By 13, he wasn't doing normal teen things. He was training 10 hours a day with the Shanghai Sharks junior system. The theory says this wasn't random hard work. It was a pipeline built for tailored nutrition, guided medical care, early national team access, everything he needed to become China's basketball face. The one-child policy only made the pressure heavier. With one shot at raising a standout, his development became a national project. By 17, he was already in the highest tiers of Chinese basketball. And by the time he reached the NBA, he wasn't just a player, he was a symbol the country had invested in since birth. After his career, he stayed connected to the system that raised him, eventually becoming chairman of the Chinese Basketball Association. The theory doesn't go into science fiction. No test tubes, no secret labs. It paints something quieter, a government-guided blueprint that started with his parents and shaped everything that followed. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.